It
4.
is. And that's it. It's day 4, bLU Talks, Amplify Your Message. I am
Mhm.
your co-host, Scotty McDermott, and this is the other co-host, which is how it becomes Laura Lake. Good
No,
morning.
I'm taking over everything, Scott. I'll
Right.
just push you off this. You'll be little this time.
Right.
Or you'll disappear like Susan yesterday.
Right.
Over.
Day 4. Can you believe it's day 4?
I can't. It's been so much more fun this time.
Yes. It has
I
been.
think because we have the energy to just go with the flow instead of going, I need to pee for 2 hours.
Right. I didn't have that thought, but I hear you. All right, we've got another string of fantastic guests today, and I'm just going to bring our next guest in right away so we can get rocking with everybody with some amazing content. Yesterday was so good. I hope that people are catching the replays, which are all over the place. They're on Corey Poirier's bLU Talks page. They're on all kinds of different places. It's being shared live on Facebook and YouTube and LinkedIn right now as we speak.
Yeah, I gotta share right now.
Yes, and that's right. And I always have to go in and change the settings from friends only to public, and I'll do that in a moment here as well. But I want to bring in Sierra. Hello, Sierra.
Hello, everybody. Hi, Scott. Hi, Laura. Thanks for having me.
It is really great to see you this morning. So it's like a free flow conversation. We're here to chat, learn all about you, how the world needs to know about you, and like that. So please tell us a bit about yourself.
Oh, before you do, can I pump you up here, Sierra?
Pump, baby, pump.
Okay. When we first met, which wasn't that long ago, I was like, wow, this girl gets me. I love her vibe. I love the way that you were speaking. I think we only met while you were talking for 8 minutes, something like that. I'm like, you need to be on this. Here's the link. I think I sent it to you right away.
That was how magic happened. Yep.
Good.
I love it.
Now tell us about you and your magic that is Sierra.
Thank you. My name is Sierra Melcher. I am the founder of Red Thread Publishing. We're an all-female publishing company, and this is a match made in heaven because what we talk about is supporting women to discover their voice, write their books, reach their audience, and amplify their message. And so thus we are here because so many women, especially are building businesses or have these deep, strong passions, have really powerful life experience, whether that's lived experience or learned experience, and they have a string of letters at the end of their name. But there's this disconnect about how we show up and share. So I used to be a teacher for a long time, and that was really, truly passionate for me. I'm the teacher of now, 1,400 humans on the planet who are adults and doing their own things and, rock stars and football stars and accountants and everything. So that was cool. And I used all the things that I learned in my teaching career once I started writing and publishing my own books to connect and sort of fill this gap for folks who they're like, I've always wanted to write a book. I wish I could. I don't know how. And that, that someday I want to. I'm like, well, how about 6 months from now? How could Sunday be, right? Like around the corner.
Oh my God.
And I say this all the time, and I want to share it here because I think there's a really subtle mental shift that happens. We make the impossible easy.
Ooh, I like that.
And anything that you don't know how to do is impossible until you know how to do it. And then it's easy.
Right.
And everyone's doing this all the time. They just maybe don't recognize it. And it's really fun. It's so much fun. Working with the personal transformation that happens for our authors, and then the ripple that happens for those people and their readers and their audience, and what happens after that it's limitless and super fun. So that's a snippet of me. Ooh. Where should we go from there?
2 things about that. Okay, first, I loved the whole we make the impossible easy. That just brings up the saying that we all keep reiterating, is that it's not about the how, it's about the who. it's like, just because we don't know how, we can ask, okay, well, who can we reach out to that does know, who has experience, who knows where the resources are, who knows the next step? Who?
Mm.
You are one of those who's from Whoville. And the second thing, I don't remember anymore because I got excited, but I know it just kind of happens.
I want to say too, there's so much about that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm writing another book. I forget how many I've been involved in now. Obviously with Corey Poirier, I've been on some of his best-selling books, but I wrote my first book way back in 2005, and I self-published and just paid thousands of dollars to have it printed. And great, but what it means is in my garage, I have a box full of books.
Yeah.
Right. So, and nobody cares. My mom cared, but she passed away now. So,
Yes.
that's not helping. It's neat, but it's kind of like it didn't, maybe I sold 400 or 500 copies, whatever, but
which is still amazingly great.
Sure.
The reality is most books don't sell 300 copies in the entire existence of a book.
Right.
So many people, we have these stories in our head about writing and publishing, and that if you write a book, thousands of copies, and you're gonna be famous, and you're gonna live on royalties, and but even 400 and 500 books is a lot of books. It's a lot of people who own your book and have access to your story.
So, but the cool thing I want to dovetail in for you is that, so that's my bit. And then, okay, now I'm writing another book, but it feels impossible to make it because I feel like, well, I don't want another garage full of books. I don't have the money to pay to print all that. So I want to do it differently. Yeah. So then I reached out to someone through Chandler's group, Self-Publishing School. Right. And I now have a book writing coach who has 10 books on the Amazon top, blah, 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 bestseller, blah, blah, blah. And he writes a book every few months. Yeah. And to him, it's like, you just do it, whatever, like no problem. So what to me is impossible, to him is just Tuesday.
Right.
And I think that's the deal. Yeah. Like somebody's like, well, I have an idea for a book, but insert volume of excuses and impossible. And then we have Sierra. It's like, oh no, we'll just do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
That's I've been on both sides of impossible and easy. I actually use the word easeful a little bit better because easy carries all sorts of meanings, and I get real geeky about words sometimes. So impossible to easeful. Yeah. Right. We're in the right room. Because easeful with ease. Right. I often share this, I grew up dyslexic. Reading was so hard. I mean, it was impossible. I was like, I just don't get it. I don't understand these scratches on this paper. So many childhood wounds. And then I learned how to read, which in itself was a huge triumph. But that I had this story that was like, oh, I can never do that. I'm not one of those people, right? I can't do it. Whether it's the writing or the publishing or the selling or the success of, there's so many stories. But I have 11 books to my name. I published my first book 3 years ago or something. And so I'm literally, this is the author proof, comes out next week. We've got 2 books happening and we've got 15 more. And now it's just what we do. It's, and people come. I had a call this morning. We bump up against all the, but I don't know. Like I'm lost, I'm confused, and I'm stuck, which is perfect. That's good. That means you're moving outside of what you know. But if you don't have someone, like you're saying, Scott, if you don't have somebody who knows, then you just stay that way. And that dream withers. It goes on the back burner, right? And then it molds and it rots and you forget that it's even there. And I know so many people come to us and, I say, how long have you wanted to write a book?
Forever.
Right. And it's not like you want to, but it takes energy to not do something that you want to do.
Yep.
Mhm.
How many times have you thought about it? How much time have you like put it on your, it's going to be my, I'm going to do it this year list, right? And it takes a lot of energy to not do something that you're really passionate about. So we turn that energy and then we figure out how to accelerate it, because all you need to know is the next step. And all you need to know is who to call when you're like, I don't get it. Like this morning's call with an author was threefold. It was, how do I refine my title? Because cover design was on the, like, it's time to design your cover, but you can't do that until you have your final title. That, you know, just the myriad of moving pieces to get a book from your heart this far. There's so many little, what happens first and what's the order. And so in 30 minutes, we refined the title, talked about what the next steps are for the cover so that we can take it to a designer and she can have some options. And then she's got the cover, and then she can start marketing, and then she can this, and then she can that. And we'd accelerate the process. That's it. Anyone can learn anything. I learned it myself. So anyone can learn how to do this. I know how long it took me, and I know how long it took me to get over not knowing it. You know, first book started in 2005, right? That book is still not finished because we need momentum to keep something alive. And so, but that was the planting of the seed that got me in, I don't know, 2017, 18, 19, learning the things that I needed to learn, doing the research, making all the mistakes, right? I'm like, I made all the mistakes so that you can make fewer. And I will happily share every one of my face down moments so that we, at every crossroad, we're like, well, I went this way and here was my logic, and it's still an option, but it's likely that this will happen. So let's consider this one. And I spoke to somebody recently too, and then it's just like, there's so many decisions to make. Yes. I just want somebody to like talk through my decisions with, who has this, they always say, like, you're up here with this big vision and I'm right in the weeds, and I just need somebody to see over the next dandelion or whatever to get me moving forward. Because the transformation that happens while we're making these decisions, as we're going through, as we're in a learning curve, I'm like, I always say that if you're in the learning curve, there's moments where the learning curve is vertical, where you are in that, you're right in it. It's only a curve when you get to step back and you're like, oh yeah, I remember that. And, but if you don't keep moving, you fall off. Gravity pulls you back, and then you have to start again, and you lose that momentum. But the transformation that happens for people, not only do we learn a whole process, we start to see ourselves differently. We show up differently, right? And a woman is publishing a book with us this week, and she's like, this book is my baby. And I'm going to raise this baby for the rest of my life. And I want to take care of this creature that I've created. So I'm going to go do more scary things. I'm going to show up and speak on stage. I'm going to go into a bookstore and ask if they'll carry it. I'm going to. And so we become different, right? We devote ourselves to things, and then we can grow our business. And then it just amplifies and accelerates, and this energy that we create just grows and grows and grows and grows. And it's just so cool because there's no limit. I always say, folks come in with they come in with the question, what if I can't? Right? But there's some faith in there to even bring that question to me, because they're like, what if I can't, but I'm really hoping I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Right. Help me prove that I'm wrong. And then what if nobody cares? And what if my message doesn't? And the sort of, and we go through this process, and I'm getting butterflies even just thinking about it, because when a woman holds her book, when anyone holds their book, and they see their name and they see their words and they know all the work that went into it, right?
Yeah.
Something happens. And then the question, it's like, I did this impossible thing, right?
That's exactly how it feels. It's like, oh my God, like,
yeah, that's your face.
Real.
Yeah.
It's real.
And those are your words, and that's your heart there on the page.
My heart.
And so the question then, when someone's like, I did an impossible thing.
Yeah.
The obvious next question is, what else can I do?
I want to do it again.
Right? And maybe it's another book. Maybe it's another business. Maybe it's walking on stage. Maybe it's, teaching or holding a retreat or something. But it's just like, what else can I do? It's this. For years, we talked about empowerment, but this is like empowerment on a whole nother level. Nobody empowered you. You empowered yourself. And it's this like vibration in your body to do. The impossible becomes easeful. It's like, oh, what other impossible things can I do?
I remember in high school, I'm not sure if I told you this or not. My high school teacher, English teacher, she's like, you're never going to be a writer. Not that I wanted to be one at the time. That was not my goal, but she asked for a summary of a book. I gave her 7 pages, and it was only supposed to be half a page. That was her reasoning that I would never be a writer. That, and I've always had horrible grammar. So going into a book like that, I'm like, I'm getting personal. I'm getting vulnerable. I'm talking about things that I'm still falling over.
Yeah. Trying
to get on a piece of paper. And I have all of the past talk of trauma and everything in my childhood that's like, you can't. And then to be around somebody like you, Sierra, or like Corey, who helps you through that process, the next steps, to be like, your message is important. The way that you say your message is not the same as anybody else. And the way you say it is important. What other kinds of things and empowerment and like positivity do you help your clients with to help them through that part?
Well, and so I shared this in the talk that connected us originally. And if I may, I would love for anybody listening and watching this to do this exercise right now for yourself.
Okay.
I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to connect with what you have to offer, what message you want to share with the world.
So many.
Right? Make space for them all. Okay? Don't let that be the thing that stops us, because even that sometimes gets overwhelming. Recognize that you have something to share. And then broaden your awareness to the people on the planet who need that message, who need that guidance, who need that particular way of you showing up for this reality. Okay. Become aware, not just of one, but many. When I do this, I feel like I see the whole planet and I see little sparks of light. And I want you to connect, draw, like there's a thread. We always call it the red thread, connecting from your heart to that person's heart. So you're aware of them, but you're already connected to them. In this moment, you already are energetically tied. They're out there looking for something. They don't know it's you. They don't even know what it is that they're looking for, but they're looking. And take a deep breath and just feel those threads. Feel those bonds, those connections. Take a couple of breaths and let that settle in with you. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes, but I want you to remain aware of all those people and the connection that currently exists, because that is the fuel that's going to get you to show up and do the hard thing, do the scary thing, find a way forward to do the impossible thing, because those people need you. And they don't need it to be perfect, and they don't need it later. They need it now as it is.
Yep.
And so showing up. Show up.
Every time.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, one of the things we needed to be, for like, one of the stories is, it's not ready yet. I'm not ready yet. It's not this, right?
Mm-hmm.
That plus I have so many things to share. I don't know where to start.
Yes.
And then I don't know how, is like paralysis.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And so we connect with who needs it.
Mm-hmm.
Then we choose one. Which message is coming first? It's just that. All the rest will come. And then what's the first step? And then the rest. It's like butter. Then you're just once you're moving, then you can keep moving.
Yeah. Every time I think about these kinds of stories, I work with the message style entrepreneurs and solopreneurs. So I'm like, that person that red thread, which I love that's the name of your publishing company, Red Thread Publishing, that red thread that connects your hearts together. What happened was it looped in my chest, because that red thread and that person I'm connecting to is me. The people that I work with, it is them. It's that old version of them. Mm-hmm. So would you ever deny yourself the thing that you're trying to share with others? Would you go back to that old version and be like, no, it's not ready yet? You'd never say that to them, because you know exactly how you felt in that moment. So why are we choosing to say no due to a little discomfort of just not knowing how, when we know that there's people like you out there that will help us with that how? Gladly. But we still get stuck there.
Well, and this is so true, because I go through this a lot, and we have this conversation, and I say, like, because that question of like, what if nobody cares? What if it doesn't change anybody's life?
It just needs one.
If your message could change one person's life, would you still write the whole book? Would you go through all of that effort and the struggle and the guaranteed tears? And would you do it? And everyone's like, yes, I would. Mm-hmm. And then I say, what if that one person's you? Mm-hmm. What if you're the only, guarantee you will be changed by this process? Guaranteed.
Oh, yes. Ever since I wrote that chapter in Corey's book, like, my life has never been the same, because you're finally allowing yourself to see yourself and accepting yourself. And then you're like, okay, if I can love that darkness inside of me, that brokenness inside of me, then once I get to that place, to a certain level, I'm allowing others to love it too. And then what can we do from there? It just, as you said, it just explodes and ripple effects into the world. I'm going to plug in my computer.
Somebody said once to me that the richest source of ideas in the world is the graveyard.
Oh my God, yes.
Don't do that. Like, don't bury your idea with you. Mm-mm. I mean, this isn't a dress rehearsal. This is life. We get one shot at this, and it's, at some point for all of us, it stops happening. And the number of people that have a phenomenal book in them,
everybody,
don't let it die with you. Yeah. And but I think a big piece of all of this too is something that we've been talking about, which is the power of someone like you as a coach who's been there, who's done that. Because to you, it's obvious. To the average person, it's a quagmire mess of quicksand and confusion, and like how to navigate all of the things that need to be done, and Amazon itself, like, because it's the number one place to I know you had one eye kind of because it's not only horrendously complicated, but it changes. And so to have a guide that's been down that road is essential. Right? It's essential. I mean, it's the same thing in my world. I coach people for endurance events. I coach them for Ironman or ultra running, and I have people that are coming up. They're 3 weeks away from a 160 kilometer, 100-mile trail run over 7 mountain ranges. And for them, when they started with me a year ago, that was impossible. But we just little by little snuck up on it. And it's just step at a time, one step at a time. And now they're ready. And let's see what happens. But that's the beauty of a coach. That's where you take people from, I have an idea, and that's the sum total of all I've got. Right. But now it's the jungle. I need a guide, and you're the guide.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that's essential for any from here to here, whatever that journey is, there's 2 parts, and most resources talk about half of what's needed to get from here to here. They talk about the logistics, and they talk about categories and keywords, and they talk about how to outline a book, and they talk about marketing plans. But that's only half of who we are. And it's not half of the resistance. The thing that's kept us from taking that first step is in our heads. It's emotional. And so if half of the coaching, half of the support isn't talking about the story in your head, right? So Scott, you're training people physically. That's important. But I'm not, right. It's only a little piece of it. But if I feel like most trainings out there, most books about writing a book or publishing are about the logistical half.
Yes.
And the emotional, spiritual, mental portion, half's not even the right word, because it's,
decimated.
We say, well, I don't know how. And that feels good. And it's true.
Sure.
That's easy. The learning the how, okay, read some books, whatever.
Yeah.
But the navigating of the showing up, the navigating of being seen, the navigating of, it's not perfect yet. It's still messy. I'm not all, it's epic and it's huge. And so I love weaving together the emotional, mental element with the logistical. Yeah.
And that's a big gift of a coach too, isn't it? Because, and you're dead right. I mean, how to write a book. Okay. So grab a typewriter or keyboard and type some words, and then hire a graphic person to make a cover, and hire a typesetter to make some words on the cover, and then
upload. Yeah.
And then upload it, and you're done. That's it. You wrote a book. Hooray. Big deal. But how come you're not writing? Well, I'm not good enough. I don't have time. I'm not sure. Nobody will like it. Like now the squirrels are running on the hamster wheel, and now all of the stuff.
Yep.
And that's where a coach is like, I'm going to use the word care. You don't care about the drama. It's not that you don't care. You're not invested in that. Yeah. You just see what needs to get done on a timeline. So it's like, okay, how do I help you through? And tell us about that journey. Why is that?
And I have squirrels, right? I have squirrels. So I can say, I see your squirrels, right? I see you spinning, but let's pull back and come over here and sit where I'm sitting so that you can see this melodrama playing out as well, so that you can see that it's just a story, right? It's definitely not that I don't care, but I'm not invested in the perpetuation of the story, right? I have a Buddhist background and we call it monkey mind, right? And so, I have a monkey mind too. Let's learn to relate to it. It's never going to go away. I'm not going to poison the squirrels and like cage the monkey, but just, right. But that so many people show up for those the stories in our head and say, well, you just kill it, right? No, it's never, that's futile. It's just never going to happen. It's not the nature of the human mind. Fine, fair, still moving forward anyway. Right. And so like, I see you crazy, scared, sad, freaking out. self. I see you. And that's all that story needs. It needs to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
I see you. It's gonna be like we resist the fear, we resist and we like try to kill the story instead of just saying, you're trying to keep me safe and I appreciate that. Let's sit together and go forward. We're gonna be okay. And then that voice actually, the freak out comes right down. It's like, oh, okay. My daughter's now 7, but she used to be littler, as most people were once. And she had like anything that does not get tended gets louder. And so the instinct or the training that we have is to shut something up. Instead of pulling it closer, it actually quiets down if we just like pull it in and say, okay, freak out. Okay, squirrels, come here. Have some popcorn, have some nuts. Come sit closer. Peanut butter, right? Like spread the peanut butter out every morning. You know that they're there. Give them something to do. Good. Now whisper in my ear something funny to make this like, let's make it safe. Let's make it playful. Let's make it more fun. And so that's my style, is to definitely not ignore it. Bring it into the conversation. Bring it closer. I call them the beasties. I befriend my beasties. And once my fear and my anger and my judgment and my criticism and my everything, when I'm not putting all my energy into pushing back on my beasties, then I feel like a superhero. Okay, I loved your Spider-Man thing. I walk out of the house and I'm like, I got anger here. I got judgment here. I got like in a hurry over there. I need it done yesterday. Don't mess with us, because we're all on the same team now and we're moving in the same direction. Mm-hmm. And it's just a way of harnessing all those voices, even the you can't. I'm like, come over here and watch me, right? I'm going to use that as my motivation instead of, oh yeah, you're right. And so we play in that space. So the energy is aligned. And then, okay, what's your title? Okay, let's work on it, right? Easy, 5 minutes. And it's easy for me because, again, I'm not elbow deep in it, but also how many times have I workshopped a title with someone? How many times have I been in it myself? I share the story. The first book I ever wrote, I really wanted to call it The Treasure You Seek. From a quote from Joseph Campbell, "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek." Love it. Okay. I was so attached to, and when I told the title to people, they were like, oh, is it like an Indiana Jones romance novel? And I was like, no, not a single page of it is like that. And cover designers were going all places. And I was like, that's not what this book is about. And I had to abandon that title because it wasn't the right title for the audience. It was the right title for me, but it wasn't the right title for the audience. And so I have my own experiences, we say in editing and in this, is it like, there's, but you have to like abandon your babies. So there's some things that we hang on to and we want it so badly. And so I even said this morning, we can't use that particular thing in your title, but you know what? It's a fundamental element of your book description. Let's put it on the back cover. It's there. It's a core. Okay. We're not going to call your book that, but it can be a section of your book. Mm-hmm. There's so many ways to move things around, but if it's just, again, it's a bird's eye view of a situation rather than I have a swamp out behind the house, right? If I were to try to cross that swamp, it would be slow and messy. And there'd be times when I'm like, I can't see the other side. I'm never getting out of this. But a bird's like, oh gosh, it's like right there. It's just so close, right? So close.
Are there any people that you feel shouldn't write a book? I was going to say ride a bike, but write a book.
Yeah, the people who don't want to.
That makes sense. That makes complete sense.
I for the longest time, I was under the impression that every human on the planet had this burning desire to write a book.
Mm.
Because I do, and most of the people I talk to do. But to my shock, there are some people who just don't want to write a book. And so no matter how many times somebody tells them they should write a book, they shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not hearing anything about your voice or your story or technicalities or your skill.
If there's a
your
tiny
age.
little whispering gremlin in you that's like, oh, I wish I wrote a book, then you should write a book.
But I
But
think
some people just don't want to.
I would say too, and I'm going to speak personally, the biggest challenge I think probably that you help with, and maybe touch to that, is how do you get it out of you when you get stuck, right? So my latest book is about my near-death crash and my recovery and getting back to the world championships. And here it is, 64,000 words.
Congratulations.
I've not moved in 3 months in that version. It's completely, I'm in that place of I'm too busy. There's the fear is, what if it's not good enough? I don't want to go through the whole process I went through before.
Yeah.
Where nobody, not nobody, but right. So then I think so tell me about coaching people through that process.
Great. Do you have a publish date in mind?
Hey, I've blown past it now.
Okay. Yeah. Given today, what's your, when do you want this book out? Is there an anniversary of the crash? Is there
the anniversary of the crash will be November, and that's when the Ultraman World Championships are. So that's actually that would be a neat launch, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Okay. From like an honoring of a moment and from a marketing perspective, which are totally different but overlap. Can this get done by November?
Oh, 100%.
Okay. So one of the things that drives people is a deadline, a container. We need a container for our energy. So I don't have time. Well, you also don't have time not to work on it today if you want it to come out in November. You don't have time to wait. You said we all die, right? And you almost did. So
yes,
get this out before you do. Yeah. Right. And I go to those dark places with people because fear is just fear really is, we think we have more time than we do. And so when we ground in the why and the who we're writing it for, why we're writing it for ourselves and who we're writing it for. And I love that you have a book that didn't do as well as you want, because that's a really good why. I want to do it differently. I want to do it better. I know how I did it. And I know sort of, if you haven't deconstructed and debriefed within yourself why it didn't do as well as you wanted it to, you certainly should, because there's tons of learning in there. Your next better book is going to be because the first one didn't do super well. If somebody has a book that does super well the first time, they sort of don't always learn as much as they could. So I'm a big fan of face down moments. I think they're really helpful.
Yeah, because there's a big piece to unpack, I think, as a coach around, well, why did the first book not do well? Well, it's because you secretly don't believe you're good enough. And so now you've just created evidence that you aren't.
Yeah. But again, I even heard you say nobody bought it. I mean, that's not true. Not nobody, right?
Right.
There's a story that you're telling yourself.
Yeah.
And you're almost catching it, but you haven't rewritten the story. 457 people bought it, right? Hang on to that. 457 lives were changed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So rewriting the story, looking back at what didn't work, deconstructing the fear about this one's going to be the same. And then I love a good a deadline. You have a publish date, which means then you need, it needs to be print ready, and then it needs to be this, and then it needs to be this, and it needs to be this, until like, oh, I need to spend 3 hours this weekend with it. And maybe the first step is, what does it need? Is it ready for an editor? If it's not ready for an editor, then you need to figure out what it needs between here and here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the first step. Maybe it's ready.
Right.
I don't know. Right.
It's not, but yeah.
But then if it's not ready, what is the thing that it needs?
Yeah.
To get it to the next step. And that's where having a map is great, right? You're not going to have somebody run a 100-mile trail run without knowing where the hell they're going.
Zero prep, just do it.
Yeah, I'll let you know when you've hit 100 miles. Just go. Generally in that direction. That's not how that works at all. And so if you're working with somebody, they can say, well, here's where the water is. Here's the rest stop. Here's where you need to do this. Here's where you need to do that. And, here's the strategy to get from here to here. Here's the strategy how to get from here to here, right? I'm sure I'm not a trail runner. So I don't know the metaphor there, but what you need to do at the beginning is not what you need to do at the end.
Yeah.
Both physically and emotionally. So what you need to do is get back in that. That's all you need to do.
Yeah.
All you need to do.
Right? All you need to do. Yeah. But there's a lot of parallels. Like when you're training for example of the 100-mile marathon, ultra marathon, your first run is 3 kilometers. It's 1.5 miles. It's not even a thing. Right. So you start there.
But for some people it is, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Huge.
So you work with women particularly.
Yes.
Tell me a little about, so why, I know niche marketing is a thing, but why women? Why not men? What's wrong with boys? No, I'm just kidding. But right?
Yeah. This is super important and I love this. There was a time when I was writing my first book, I was doing market research for it. And I found some statistics that blew my mind. And they shouldn't have, because I knew them from living them my whole life. Most of the works of the world are published by men. Mm-hmm. We have a 5,000-year history of male dominance in all things. Mm-hmm. And 200 years ago, when women started to publish, they used men's names, right? And so the story about who we are as a people is significantly male dominated. And everybody has a valuable perspective, but one perspective, sort of even in the story, we're talking about how to write a book. If you only have the logistics, you only have part of the story. Mm-hmm. You only have part of the resources you need to get there easily, right? And so I was a history teacher for 15 years. So I perpetuated and shared part of who we are. But it was really hard to find other versions. I spent an entire year, I devoted myself. I said, I want to read books by women. Are there any? Because I wasn't sure. I had to go searching. And then I found a whole lot. So I wanted to support women. We don't see ourselves as accessible to this story. So I wanted to close the gap, change our perspective, add more females' voices to the conversation, and really bring this transformation for women to this other place of, what else can I do? Mm. And so it's this multi-pronged, why women, to add more women's voices, to support women to see themselves in positions of influence, and then let the ripple, whether they write more books, stand on stage, support other people, and bring the other statistic that's really powerful. And I may not get into it too much today, but men read 98.9% male authors, while women read 50-50. And so women are in a unique position to see both perspectives. and men aren't. And this is an average, this is a statistic, but every person I've ever shared this statistic with, every man is like, no, that can't be true. I'm going to go check my like bookshelf and my Kindle. And then they come back and they're like,
Yeah. Right now I'm scrolling through all my audio.
Wow. I think mine's 50-50. We're about that.
Purpose. I didn't go, I don't want to listen to any books by women. It's just not, it's not what's suggested. It's not what comes up. It's not, wow.
And because, I mean, I want you to just even think of the books you read in high school that were assigned, that you were taught to read.
Hated them.
Right? In college. And then more, and then there's analytics and all of the stuff, right? Oh, you'll love this. It's about war and battle. And oh, you'd love this. It's, you know, it becomes a thing, especially if we're not conscious of it, then there's no effort to, oh, I love my male friends. And they're like, look, I read, you know, How to Be a Badass by Jen Sincero. Woohoo!
I was thinking of that book. It's on my shelf. Okay.
But it's like the one book. It's the token book written by a woman for so many of these guys that I know. I'm like, so you're proud of yourself because you own a book written by a woman? Like that,
yeah.
That's the accomplishment. So I don't, and this is the space that I'm growing into. Having more books written by women isn't going to change that statistic.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That just having more books available isn't the problem. And so we're moving into the space of what do we do next within that space. But that's just the fun I'm playing in.
So really quick, we're going to ask you where we can find you because we are a couple minutes over here.
Yeah, we got this has been so good. Of course, we don't want to stop you because you're amazing.
I know.
But stop me.
Our next guest is waiting, so we do have to roll.
By all means.
How do we find you? How do we work with you?
Yeah. Red Thread Publishing exists at redthreadbooks.com, and Sierra Melcher or Red Thread Publishing and Red Thread Books are the places to find us. We have tons of books out, really celebrating our authors, lots of cool opportunities coming this year and next year with just ways to get lots of new voices in the mix. So I'm really glad to have had a chance to chat with you all. Thank you for letting me go over. Mm-hmm. It's been really fun. Thank you.
And so that website again, I'm just going to type it into the chat, is
redthreadbooks.com. Yep.
.com. Excellent. I'm going to put that out for everybody to see.
Thanks.
It has been so awesome, Sierra. Selfishly, I've learned and loved. Laura, it's good?
Yes.
Scott, I want you to ping me when you set the official publishing date for your book, okay? Whenever that is. You are now locked into someday. Okay?
I am.
And tell me when.
It's so smart, and I there's layers to it because Ironman World Championships in Kona, Hawaii is end of October, and then Ultraman World Championships at end of November. And gosh, wouldn't it be cool to spend 6 weeks in Hawaii promoting my book at those two events that are filled with thousands of people? That feels like a good idea. And
that is a good idea.
So thank you.
You are most welcome.
I will hound Spot for the rest of this event and maybe sometimes via private chat.
Excellent. Great.
Thank you so much, Sierra.
Thank you, Sierra.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Okay, well, it's hard when you have a phenomenal speaker and everything is going great, and you're like, okay, we have to shift, but I don't want her to stop talking. It's so good. And I have a feeling that's going to happen with our next guest too. So without any further, I'm going to bring in Lindsey Hagood. So Lindsey, hello.
Hi, Lindsey.
Hi.
How are you doing?
How are y'all doing? I'm like, finally. But you know, everybody's like that when they come on, like, come on, wrap it up. And y'all were like, hey, come sit backstage. And then I started to get nervous, like, oh my God. Hi, Scott. Hi, Laura. It's so nice to see you guys. Girl
you
and guy, how y'all doing? We say, hey, y'all, from Texas.
Excellent. So you're in Texas, Big T, Texas.
Well, I'm from Texas, but I'm actually in Florida, and it's super hot right now, like pant.
Oh my God. And no need to be nervous whatsoever. Like, I love the energy of this because Scott and I get to have fun. We're playful. It feels like we're just sitting in a cafe getting to know each other.
Mm-hmm.
And asking all the questions.
Oh, yeah. I've just been doing a lot of them lately. And I don't know, for some reason, I was like, oh my God, Blue Talks. I think it's because the book's out and, there's so much buzz about it. People are like, what is it about? Where can I get this book? What's going on? And what are you doing, Lindsey? Oh my God, I thought you were sick. What are you doing? And then I jump on and I heard that great speaker and you hear other people. I really don't listen to other people. I read about them like off on the side, but not like to sit backstage. And it just gets your adrenaline going and fired up. And you're just like, oh my God, oh my goodness. But I'm glad that I'm on now. And it sounded like y'all had a really great interview. And so y'all are just doing these back to back, right?
Yep. Back to back to back to back to back. It's awesome. And so, Lindsey, let's jump in. Tell us about yourself and how you serve the world.
Well, I serve the world by helping others. And thank you so much for asking. And it's quite a journey right now for me. So I'm literally in recovery. I heard a little bit of your story, Scott, about a near-death experience where you were ill. And so my story is I was a professional model and I was a brand trade show hostess, product demonstrator, product specialist way back 6 years ago. And I went in for a surgery that I needed. And I came out with complications and I was very, very sick. I nearly lost my life. And so I saw God that day and I had a near-death experience. And I was down for 6 months and it was with silicone poisoning and breast implant illness. It was something I didn't know anything about, this crazy world. And I somehow got intertwined into it. And I just wanted nothing to do with it because it was such a controversial conversation. And I was really sick. I dodged an unknown pathogen that attacked my immune system. And long story short of it is, I found out later what it was connected to. Doctors wouldn't talk about it. We'll talk about that some other time. But why am I here today? How did I get here today? Well, I'm talking about Live Inspired Through Faith and Fitness. And I just kind of jump-started this blog 3 years ago, went out to compete again in a fitness competition after being retired for 25 years, won 3 gold medals, and just kind of blossomed this amazing platform that was inspiring people from illness to wellness through faith and fitness, through health and fitness. And I just started coaching and teaching people how to eat properly and how to get healthy through illness and wellness. And then fast forward where I am today, like all of us know what happened 2 years ago with COVID. And I think that was worse than the silicone poisoning. It was just crazy. Yeah, it like really locked me. And that's a whole different chapter. And everybody's like, hey, I'm writing my book. Hey, I'm not writing my book. And I heard what she was saying. Everybody has a message and a story though. And people were continually telling me and God really spoke to me. And I just felt I needed to share what's going on with me. Like, this is real life stuff. This is real stuff. And this happens to people more than that they know. And especially since I was a breast prosthesis patient, gone breast mastectomy, and I can relate to a lot of these breast cancer patients out there. I didn't literally have cancer, but I went through the process of the removal, the mastectomy. I still have my own breast tissue, praise God. But the damage with the areolas and all of this, which is technical stuff, it was really painful for me. So I wanted to shift that sordid journey to something great and fierce that I am so passionate about. And that's living inspired through faith and fitness. And that's how I got in contact with Amplify Your Message. So I can speak about that today because that's my first chapter in the book that just came out. Yes, volume 6, and they just shipped it. Corey, I just got 6 of them yesterday. So I'm really excited. Look, y'all, I'm like official.
I know. I do that too. Like, where are you on the back?
I'm number 7, and I'm actually chapter 7. Here I am right over here. And I can't see unless I've got my glasses on. Y'all might be there one day. I love it, Scott.
Mine too.
Okay, this is awesome. So y'all, oh my God, so you're in the first one. And Scott, which volume are you in?
I'm in 4 and 5.
Oh my God, I feel like we're like in a groupie right now. Like we're in the group. But yeah. I'm proud of y'all and I'm excited and I'm new to the platform. So I'm just like, I just got volume 1 and 4. So I'm trying to catch up. So you're in 4, Scott?
Yeah. 4 and
You're
5.
in 4, and you're what? 4 and 5.
I'm in number
Okay, you're in
1.
1. Okay,
Yeah.
so good. So I can read y'all's stories and then find
Yes.
out about y'all. But yeah, so that's why I'm here today and just spreading the light on illness to wellness. And, you know, don't stay stuck. Find your purpose. And I found my purpose through my wellness journey, through my faith, obviously, in God, and my fitness course, you know, really being fit when you're down. I mean, you can attest to this, Scott. Like when you're down, and you can't take a thoroughbred down unless you're truly sick, and just overcoming this incredible giant that just attacked my body. I had to rest. You know, what do? You rest. We heal when we rest. And so I did a lot of thinking, a lot of dreaming during that time. I moved to the beach, Florida, got a Jeep, and I came here to write my book. And I'm like literally living my dream right now. Like I'm sitting here before I came on board with y'all, like live, like, oh my gosh, oh my goodness, this is like really happening. This is like, okay. But the joy for me is not so much about me. It's really about how I shifted my energy to help other people. Because in the real grand thing of things, we all have messages and we all have stories. And how are we helping each other heal? How are we helping each other in general? And I think that that's the real big message through my Live Inspired Through Faith and Fitness, is I'm helping you aspire to inspire as you're inspiring to inspire me. And it's very, very rewarding and incredibly fulfilling. So that's it in a nutshell.
I have a big question for you then. I know
Sure.
that your story and a lot of people's stories are very deep, very vulnerable, very heavy on topics sometimes. What would you say
Right.
to those people who want to share their story, but they haven't built up that courage yet to do so?
I would just encourage them to listen inward, because there's an inner light and an inner voice in all of us that is shining so bright above the heaviness, that if you really cue in and listen into it, it's your guidance, it's your guide. Like God is guiding you into the direction of where you're headed, where you're going, and what you want to do. I mean, some people want to talk about their message. I know for me, I just wanted to hide underneath a rock. Like I was literally mortified when somebody tagged me silicone poisoning. Nobody knew I had breast implants. It was like I didn't even have a good boob story, a boob job story, you know? So it was something I covered up. But what I can tell people is whatever your story is, there's a message there. And there's a message in the healing, and there's a message in the resting, and there's a message in the recovery. And I'm going to start crying. And there's a message when you rediscover who you are. It's almost like being born again. And if you could really hone in and tune into that and let it resonate with you for a while, you're going to fish yourself out of the storm, you know, the storm of your life, which was the storm for me. And you will find light again. You will find happiness again. You will find healing again. But you have to listen inward. I think so many of us ignore that. We're just so busy looking outside here that we're not looking inside here. And there's really something big to be said about that. So I would tell them to dive in, lean in deep within themselves, you know, find out who they are, where they're going, where they're heading, what they want. They might not want to do anything with the message. They might just want to heal silently and quietly and just be this bright beacon of light. You know, there's so many people I meet that are like that too, and that's okay. I'm not going to boost myself up, but I was one of them. I mean, I did not want to talk about this, but God kept saying to me, no, you are going to talk about this. And I just was like, oh my gosh. And that's how I got connected with bLU Talks and got into this volume 6. And it's really been quite an elevation of inspiration for me. So I would encourage the readers and the listeners right now, if you're going through illness to wellness or you're overcoming a hardship, think of a positive thing that you can do, how you're going to get out of it, and what you can do with it. How can you spread your message? Because when we share that message to other people, whether it's publicly or privately, we're really making a difference in another's life. So that's what I would share with them. That was a lot, wasn't it?
No, it's fine.
When you give
Okay.
permission, people like us, you know, Laura calls us mess to messenger.
Oh,
Right? The
wow.
mess to the
Yes, I
message,
love
right? So
that. I love
we
that.
give permission for people that are struggling
Yeah.
to realize they're not
Mhm.
alone, and to go, wow, if Lindsey got through this, I could get through this. Because there's so many people that are going, oh, that was me. I didn't want to tell anybody, and I didn't want. And there's also another piece in this too, where for a long time we have assigned doctors this that can do no wrong status, and that's not justified. Like,
Yeah.
doctors are people, and they have organizations that tell them thou shalt not admit guilt, and thou shalt not, and
Oh yeah.
you need to be
Yeah.
careful, because we can heal. My experience was a
We
near-death crash
can.
from a race.
Oh wow. Oh
But a lot of
wow.
stuff that I had to go
Wow.
through, you're on your own. Like,
Yeah.
right?
Nobody's there to save you. And Scott, I'm so glad you said that. And a part of me for interrupting you. Nobody is there for you. I recovered by myself. My family was in Texas. My mom was ill. She was overcoming her own surgery and own battle. I was literally laying in the bed for 6 months fighting for my life. I literally was driving myself back and forth 40 minutes each way to the hospital. I don't even know how I did it when I look back on it, but it's a higher power. It's God. It's it's a higher power, whatever you believe in. I believe personally in God,
Mhm.
the message of hope, and Buddha, the stars, the moon, the universe, whatever your belief system is, just believe in something to help you get there. But personally, for me, it's God. And I know through your crash, you probably had a near death experience too. I'm assuming. I haven't read your story. I'm sorry,
So
but this is great because I don't know. We can kind of really relate to one another.
Well, and I'm right there with you too. As a Christian and stuff, a lot of times I was like, okay, God, I don't know where this is headed, but I'm trusting you that this is going to be good later. Right now, it doesn't
Yeah,
feel
and you
so.
weren't laughing, and you weren't
No.
laughing, you were crying. But now you can look back with humor, like, okay, God has a sense of humor too, right?
Oh yeah. But I knew well, and I think maybe like you too, it's like, okay, well, this is happening. How do I get through this, and how do I get better? Like, what do I need to do?
Yeah, like you find a solution because you can't just lay there and die. I mean, I just was like, I'm too good for this, number one. And number two, this is bullshit. This is
Yeah.
not happening. What is this? This is
Yeah.
crazy.
I'm too beautiful for this to be happening. Come on. Like,
You know what I thought? I just thought, you got to be kidding me. Like, does this really happen to people? Are you serious? Out of all the things that could happen to me, not my breasts. And I'm not even a vain person, and all I could think of in that moment was these poor women that breastfeed. Oh my gosh, my breasts were lactating, not to get personal, but I was like, what the heck is this? They're coming back, they kept saying. I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, you just couldn't make up this if you tried. But I do remember laying there, and I never laughed. I just remembered laying there like, Mom, I'm just trying to heal, like, feel to heal, like, just give me a breath of life. Do something, God, like, sweet Jesus, get me out of this bed. And Scott, I don't know for you what your accident was, but for me and Laura, it was poison. And so
Mhm.
when your body's poisoned so badly, I mean, I was literally on my elbows crawling on the floor to get to the exercise room, to get on a bike, to pedal one pedal at a time, because my health and fitness is that's my joy, that's my go-to. And even through this mental health crisis, golly, just walk, Lindsey, ride a bike, do something, get up, movement is so important. But there is a time when we're so sick, we truly need to just lay down and rest. I'll never forget one of my aides told me, Lindsey, you heal when you rest. And there's so much truth in that. And look at us. I mean, look at us, Scott. Who would have known, right?
Yeah.
I mean, golly. And Laura, I don't know if you've been through a traumatic issue in your
Oh, yes.
life, but you can relate to this pain and kind of sordid suffering. And I think all of us in the world are going to experience some sort of suffering, whether it's a life-changing experience, a breakup, a divorce, a friendship gone wrong, a job being fired by a job, or just something so crazy you couldn't even make up the story if you tried, because we're here to learn our lessons for whatever reason. But also, most importantly, it's life stuff, right? Like life's going to happen and stuff just happens, and it does help to build character. It does make you stronger again. I don't know if this is going to really resonate with people, but I'm sure with both of y'all it does, because for me, I was just like, wow, I've really got a backbone now. Like I can talk this stuff all day long and I'm good.
Yeah.
Right. You understand though, right?
Oh, yes. I do know that,
Yeah.
well, first off, Scott and I have a lot of things in common, like a bike accident, like architecture,
Oh
like
gosh. Oh
all of these
gosh.
things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And then
Wow. This is crazy.
I know it's like when Corey put the two of us together and we started chatting, I was like, you're me, only masculine, and just express things slightly
Yeah.
differently.
I
Yeah,
love that.
basically, she's my twin sister. We just met later, and I'm older than her, but never
Well,
mind.
I love it. I feel like I blend in too, and I'm like part of the team because I have an architecture and interior design background also.
Really? Oh
That
my
was my
God.
first career.
Yes. Oh, I loved
Yeah,
all of it.
That's awesome.
But I know
yeah,
that everybody that hears this, there's something in their life that they may not have labeled as trauma, but
right,
it was difficult for them, whatever
right,
difficult
right.
looked like. And then they
That's
have to
right.
go through that of this was hard. I had to learn something. I had to take actions on it. And now because of the lessons I've learned, I'm a better person because of it.
That's
But my
right.
version of hard is
Absolutely.
not your version of hard. My version of
That's
trauma is
right.
not your version of trauma.
Hmm.
That's right. Yes. That's good
So do you,
stuff. There's so much truth in that.
yeah. Do you have like a core message that you're trying to share with people through your chapter in the Blue Talks book or through the
Well,
messages that you're sharing now?
yeah, it's really the name of the book, which is the first chapter. It's called Live Inspired Through Faith and Fitness. And my message is that just that, live inspired through faith and through fitness. And for me, I found my faith and my fitness through the joy of this mess. My message, I turn the mess into a message, my test into a testimony. You hear these things all the time. And
Yep.
yeah, that's what I just really want to share with the readers is, do something of passion with what you've got, with what you can. And that's what I did, and live inspired through that. And so it's live inspired through faith and fitness. And that's just really where, I'm just really charging with that message right now. It really resonates with me. It's all about who I am. I was a professional fitness competitor, an amateur at one time, professional fitness competitor with many, many titles and accolades, retired, taught for a very, very long time, personal trainer, life coach, motivational speaker, professional model, editorial model, did all this incredible stuff, had an amazing career in Las Vegas, Nevada. I lived there for 20 years. It was the best years of my life, the last 20 years of my life, before I literally was thrown off the stage in 2017, where I pretty much became retired because my recovery was my full-time job. And so through the mess of all of this, the message of what we're talking about is I found myself through faith and fitness, living inspired. And so it's been such a joy to be on this journey to turn something so tragic into something so terrific, and
Ooh, I like it.
just triumph, and just really just somebody said the other day, Lindsey, you're slaying it. And I'm like, what does slaying it mean? I guess it's a kid's term. You're slaying. And
You're slaying it. Yep.
it's kind of like the comeback, like you guys are having your comeback too. And there's just so much joy and being in a different place with a purpose and, a passion. And if it's, again, I'm just reiterating this because, we all learn by repetition,
Mhm.
do something that you're passionate with purpose in your life, whether you're sick, you're ill, whether you're recovering or rediscovering who you are. It's just so important that you stick to that, because ultimately our life is about us and nobody's coming to save us, right, Scott? Right, Laura?
Nope.
And we have to make things happen on our own. And what is it that you want to do? And I love helping people. I always have. I love being a healer, a helper. It's very, very rewarding to me to see another person shine and smile and make a difference in something that they really need help with. I'm not a counselor. I don't want to claim myself as a counselor. I'm more of a coach and a mentor and a motivator. But so that's my journey that I'm taking, just kind of picking up where the pieces left off. Where, I was at the height of my career. So I had to kind of like go back in time thinking, okay, what was I doing? And back then my professional name was Lindsey Higgins. So I had this real identity crisis and went back to my birth name of who I am, Lindsey Hagood, and just a rediscovery. It's been a huge rediscovery from recovery, and it's been amazing. And I really encourage other people who are going through similar situations to just take the bull by the horns and fight, man. Fight for your life and just keep on driving and pressing forward. And anybody or anything that's not on your journey that does not serve your happiness, get rid of them. Life is too short, and we have more productive and great things to do in our life than to have dead weight hanging on the cliff, like we're hanging off the cliffside when we're trying to recover, right? And I think the whole world right now is in recovery mode. So I hope that this message resonates with them, because we've all been through it all. I mean, when COVID happened, I felt like, wow, I'm just a couple years ahead of them. God bless them. But please, Lord, get me through this one. And this was so hard for me, like the anxiety, the paranoia. I don't know about y'all, but it was so, oh gosh. And I thought about taking my life, and I thank God every day I got off the wrong kind of medicines, and I just got back to the beach and just pushed everybody that was really in my way out of my way. And there's something to be said about that. Gosh, I feel like I need to share this message real quick, Spirit speaking to me. So anybody who's going through a really lonely patch in their life right now, get busy with your passions, get busy with your purpose, get busy with your journey. Maybe it's your health and fitness journey. Maybe it's losing weight and looking great. Maybe it's finding a new job because you hate your job. There's so much available now, because so many of us are really truly becoming entrepreneurs and working out of our own home, and we're learning to get back to our source, which is us, which is inside us, which is divine source from him, because he said, I am one in you and you are one in me. And I'm saying that because when I laid there in that bed and I couldn't figure out who this third person, this deity at the end of my bed was, it was Jesus. And he said, I am one in you and you are one in me. And that just took a whole different meaning to me. And so I started shifting that negativity into positivity. I really encourage people to get off of the negativity train. It's not a good place to be. It's a dark place to be. And it's not a comfortable place to be. Get back in the light, get back into positivity, get into things that inspire you, that create a lot of creativity for you, because when we become creative, we get inspired and we get re-inspired. And there's a lot going on that we can really benefit in a really positive way. It's just the choice is ours. Which way do we want to go? You've got two forks in the road. You want to kind of trail off this way, or you want to go up here and swim up to greatness. I want to swim up to greatness. I know that you guys do too.
One of the things that you said, Lindsey, that was so cool and it really resonated, and I think powerful, and people need to hear is that healing comes through movement. Now we say fitness. It comes through movement.
It does.
Like you said, crawling on your elbows to get to your exercise bike to turn a few pedals. Like so many people go, "What?" But if you're stuck on the couch, it's a problem, and you can't just be stuck on the couch watching junk coming in from the idiot box and just holding you down. It's about shut that off and just start to move. I remember it was 1 month after all of my surgeries to put the metal parts in to hold my bones together and stuff, and I had clearance from the doctor to run. And I had some amazing people. I ran a fitness center, a 15,000 square foot gym for 18 years, and every year I would coach a run clinic. And I remember people starting to ask, "Hey, coach, are you going to run your run clinic this year?" And I was like, I can't really put my socks on by myself yet. I don't know about running. But I'm like, well, like I'm not allowed to drive because I had a brain injury and all these things. And somebody will have to pick me up, bring me to the gym, I'll do what I can, and maybe I'll go with the learn to run people, and I'll do a little bit. But I thought, okay, people were like, yeah, we'll support you, we'll help, and they did. It was great. But I thought, okay, I need to go for a test run and see if I can still do anything. And I went out for a shuffle run, and it was pathetic. Like, it was barely above walking. Calling it a run would be a stretch, but after
but you did it. You did it, Scott.
And it was so hard, and it was about, I think, maybe 12 minutes. And what was fascinating is I came home, and now this is a little graphic, but we're there today. I peed this black, foul smelling, disgusting yuck. And it turns out it was anesthesia that was still in my body from a month ago when they put all the metal parts in. And once I did that, once I got rid of that garbage, and there was 2 more times where that kind of happened, but movement, the peristalsis, the jostling of the intestines, the movement, the lymph nodes function allowed that to go out. And once it left, I got my taste of smell and my sense of taste back.
Amazing. It's
because
amazing.
For a month, for 4 weeks, all food tasted like, I would imagine, burnt urine taste. Like, it was horrible, especially proteins tasted awful.
That was the medicine. Yeah, that was the medicine. Yes, movement.
Once I moved. And I don't know about you, but when I'm on a big long run, I'm talking to God a lot.
Oh, yes.
It was those 2 things, right?
I bike a lot, so it's always my God time. Yes, it's so healing. My meditation time. And go ahead, but no, that's so true. When you're purging that, when you're moving, you're purging stuff out of your body, and it's so important that people move, especially when they're ill or when they've undergone medical emergency and had anesthesia. It could take up to 8 months to get that stuff out of your body. You know, did you juice?
Like, move. Like, I did some juicing. Yeah. Like, when it's safe to do so, of course, but move.
Of course.
When you don't feel like it, when you don't want to.
Yes. Amen.
Right? Yeah.
It sounds like meditation.
I just remember just crawling down the hallway, and just so much was happening, and I'll save the rest of it for the book. It kind of takes me back in time. It's like, whoa, I got to talk about that.
So I'm going to ask you about inspiration, but I do want to comment, Scotty, your worst case scenario running is probably my best case scenario running. Like, if you asked me to get on a treadmill right now, I don't know how that would look, somewhere like that. So, Lindsey, when we're talking about an inspired life, what does that look like for you? How do you know you're living an inspired life?
Well, for me, I love beauty. I love nature. I love clean living. I love minimal living. So I downsize. I literally live in a 2-bedroom villa that's about 1,168 square feet. So if somebody in terms was asking, how does living inspired physically look to you? Minimal, small, quiet, peaceful, on the beach. Also living an inspired life, doing the things that I want to do. I want to read. I want to work out. I want to ride my bike. I want to get time together with friends when I can. I live in a little beach town. It's really expensive to get here. So I really miss my friends. So I really connect on social media. So I do a lot of connecting online to catch up with people and friends. That inspires me because I get to hear what's going on in their life. And it's not like, oh, how's the beach life, Lindsey? No, let's talk about you. Also travels, now that the ban is lifted and we all can kind of escape, get back out to traveling.
Never escaped before, so work on it.
Oh my gosh. So are you still like in your house, like quarantined?
No,
I have to.
My escaping is like going to my mom's, which is about an hour and a half away. But if you're talking travel, I've never left Canada before, and I think I can count on one hand the amount of times I've left my province.
Wow. Yeah, and a lot of people live in bigger, countries, like Canada. I have a lot of friends that live in Canada that they haven't left Canada either, but I've been to Alaska, and if Canada's as beautiful as Alaska is, there's so much to do. I would never want to leave either. Like, why escape your own country? Like
Stay
me,
here.
have I ever left the United States? Out of the country, very little, on cruises where I went to Jamaica and Haiti, and this was so way back in the heyday, Cancun and Cozumel, Mexico, and Cabo San Lucas, but that's still considered part of, no, is it? Well, anyway, I don't know. Yes, and the Virgin Islands and the Bahamas, but that's the only time that I've ever traveled out of the country. I've never been to Europe or Asia, and honestly, I just have no desire. And now that everything that did, I mean, there's just so much beauty to see in our own country, like you in Canada and me in the United States. I love Florida and California and Texas, so I'll travel all across the United States and, go camping if I can and get away. And, there's so much beauty to see in our own countries and so much to explore. That we really should just take the time to, stay home. That was the message that they were trying to spread to us anyway, right? Stay home.
Oh, we had this whole campaign where our I can't remember what he's called, some counselor or something. He's like, stay the blazes home.
Yeah, let's not even.
And it was stickers and t-shirts and everything.
We'll keep it positive. Next topic.
Yeah.
wait, what I say?
It's just a mess. It's Let's pretend it never happened.
Okay.
Staying inspired.
You can get a t-shirt now that has a DeLorean with the gull wings up, and it says, Marty, whatever you do, never go to 2020. And that, I feel, yeah.
So good.
Oh my
the whole world lost every brain cell it had. So anyway,
no, we did. But here we are today. We're all thriving and surviving, right?
Yes. That's awesome.
Onward,
so Lindsey,
upward.
So you're big up and coming, obviously. Now, is your book out yet, or is it going to be? Like, I know you're with Corey and the that's great.
Yeah. So I was in this book, and I'm actually going to be in a separate book with a different brand. And that one will be coming out sometime soon. And I won't promote that here because I really want to talk about bLU Talks. I'm just so grateful for the opportunity that I had with Corey, with the connections that I've had with bLU Talk. And all the amazing, wonderful stories. I mean, there's incredible stories in this book. And so where am I moving forward? I'm going to be self-publishing my own book. And I'm really not going to do that until next year, until next April. I don't know why, April 2023. I keep saying that. So I'm just listening to my guides. And I'm writing right now. And, if it was that easy, everybody would be writing their story. Everybody would be writing their own book. It's very difficult, and found myself kind of stuck. So it's like I've written, like writing, and then I stop. Like I have to find balance with my life. But thanks for asking me. My goal is April 2023. And I'll just keep you all posted and abreast on it.
Pun intended, right?
Can I do one of these?
Yes. Okay. Oh gosh, I love it. Now we have acoustics. Play some more, please. Give me a beat. Come on. Give me a beat.
Give you applause. I give you applause.
Okay.
How about applause?
Okay. Woo! Here she is. Oh yeah. But there's a lot of exciting stuff going on for me right now. I just am really excited about the journey. I'm excited about right now. I am taking a coaching and motivational advanced leadership program with the John Maxwell team. So I'm really excited about that. Yeah. And I just, they say sky is the limit. I think it's unlimited. I think that it's filled with so much potential, and we just have to dive in and reach in where our calling is and where we want to go. And I am certified as a coach and a motivational speaker, but I really wanted to be with somebody that resonates with me, that I've really studied for many years. An incredible opportunity fell in my lap. And it was just during this tenor of my recovery. And I thought, God, I look back into this in 2014. I have to do this. This is crazy, right? And so I just have really some really great stuff going on right now. The most important thing is it's not about me. It's about helping others. And, I just am so passionate about sharing my story so that it can make an impact and to impact, lead, and inspire, and an impactful difference in another person's life, because there's so many women like me that have suffered through, a similar situation, so much suffering, so much unnecessary drama. And, where do we recover? We recover when we help each other. We recover when we be a beacon of our voice, a beacon of light to other people. And so that's really my mission. And, where I'm headed and where I'm going right now is just helping other people. And if I can change one person's life by sharing my story and inspiring them out of their madness, out of their trauma from their drama, out of their, lowest of lows to highest of highs, then I just feel very worthy. I feel that it's our passion and our purpose here in life. We were put here to help other people. And so I'm very, very centered on that. And so that's why I'm sharing my message. I didn't want this to be about me. I don't care to be a go-to public figure or a celebrity or anything like that. That's not my goal. My goal is just to help, regular people with everyday lives, just struggling and just trying to make it, just trying to survive, and just trying to get from point A to point Z, or point A to point B. Maybe they don't have a long link in between, right? Maybe they're just from A to B, but I'm like I want to do it all, A to Z, like the full rainbow effect. And I'm just really excited, but I thank y'all so much for having me. This has been a joy.
Aww. Well, what is the best way for people to get a hold of you?
Well, I'm on Linktree right now, Linktree / Lindsey Hagood. My website will be up and running in about 2 weeks. It's lindseyhagood.com, www.lindseyhagood.com. And that's the best way that they can reach me. They can also email me, Lindsey Hagood, LindseyHagood @yahoo.com. I've been told not to give out my number. I gave out my number, and that was a little bit of a big mistake.
Yeah.
So I won't give out my phone number, but that's the best way to get a hold of me. And I'll be doing some great speaking segments for just small to large companies at the end of the year. I'm really excited about some different projects that I'm working on right now. And again, it's very, I didn't want this for me, y'all. I just wanted to heal, and through helping other people helped me to heal. I'm going to start crying. It's just been so incredible. I was really sick, and I'm really lucky to be alive. I survived MRSA, site of surgery, bacteria staphylococcus, and sepsis shock poisoning. And the doctors told my family that I was fine, and I wasn't fine. I was very, very sick for a very, very long time. So to fast forward and get through the whole viral thing, and I was in infectious disease care for a very, very long time. It's so wonderful. And I was sick again this past Christmas with the variant, and back in infectious disease care. And you guys, it was like reliving the whole nightmare on a whole different level. But just to feel good and to live inspired today in this present moment is where I'm at, helping others. I'm really excited. And I'm really grateful that y'all had me here today. It's been a real joy. Again, like I said, thank you.
It's so great to have, and it's funny, once you get into this circle, the speaker circle, the author circle, you realize how many messengers there are, and how many people are, well, they're doing you're doing a beautiful service to the world, because I think it's so easy to see you from the lens of Facebook or Instagram or whatever. You go, oh, Lindsey,
right.
She's beautiful. She lives in Florida. She's done all these great things. She's been
lives by the beach.
Her life is so easy.
She's in her bathing suit again. Oh my God.
Yeah, so
we're gonna see her jumping around in her bikini again.
Sure. Oh, it's so easy for her. But and then when they go, wait, you lived through what? You got through what? And then people realize, wait a second. And you give them permission to get through their challenge and realize, like, you're very inspiring. And that's, you can't be,
thank you.
Like, don't be quiet and silent.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Somebody said, Lindsey, you have so much to share. You have to speak, but my throat chakra was locked up for a really long time. I had a really hard time finding my voice through it. And it was because I wasn't supposed to speak at that time. I was really supposed to rest. And I'm just really glad that I got my wings back and I'm like emerging like the butterfly and just like, wow. And it just takes time. You know, it takes time for recovery. It takes time to get better. It takes time to heal. And nobody should rush the process. You know, we all have our own timing. And I just feel like it's been like ancient. Like it's been years. Like I was a mummy, just like stuck in the little mummy box for so long. And, you know, really talking about breast implant illness and poisoning has been hard for me. It's a hard topic. You know, it's such a controversial topic. And I'm tied up in a court battle right now with the medical board. They went after my doctor. And so I had that hearing come up. And so it's like, it's right when you think it's over, it's like, woo, here's another subpoena. Great.
Yeah.
But, you know, I have to speak up and I have to testify on what happened because it shouldn't happen to other people. And, you know, it's just you know, whatever happened, there's reasons for everything. Just moving forward. We're not going backwards. We're not looking in the rearview mirror, as Joel Osteen says. We're moving forward. That's why the image in front of us gets bigger on purpose, right? And the image behind us gets smaller. But we remember the stuff. Yeah, we remember the stuff that was of value to us and what we benefited from. And the rest, let's just forget about it and just keep moving forward. Because if we dwell on the bad stuff, we'll never heal. We'll never get better.
Yeah.
And
One of the things
I'm glad that y'all are here. Oh, yeah.
I was just saying, one of the things I talked about one of my daily mindset videos is live your life looking through the front windshield, not the rear view mirror. Don't drive looking in the rear view mirror. That's dangerous.
Okay, well, awesome. Yes,
Out
it
the
is.
windshield.
It is dangerous, right?
Yeah.
I love that. And it's so true. Well, thank y'all so much. And
Thank you.
gosh, I hate to get off the air, but I know that y'all got other people to get to. So
This is where we're 2 minutes late again, but it's so good to chat with you. You're doing amazing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And good luck to the next interviewer. And I know it's going to be great. And it was such a joy to meet both of y'all on live on air. And I hope to meet y'all in person soon.
Looking forward to it. We're going to come and visit you in Florida.
Okay.
That's the plan.
Yes, Destin, Florida. I think I should have a retreat. I'll talk to Corey about that. That would be really cool, right? Okay.
Right.
Love and light.
Have
Y'all have a great day and God bless you. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. All right. Deep breath.
Shake it off. Shake it off. Okay. We're just going to wiggle, Max.
Ready for another super powered, awesome interview? Let's bring on Max. Hello.
Hey, Max.
Hey, everybody.
How you doing?
Are you
I'm
a 10
doing
out of
great.
10? Is that what your shirt says?
No. This is we support like a what do you call it? Charity for mitochondrial disease. We lost a granddaughter 3 years ago to mitochondrial disease. So every year my stepdaughter and her family and my wife and I participate in a 5K. Well, they do. I watch, I wave them on. And we try to participate every year and raise money for, because there's no cure for it. And she was only 3 months and a day old when that happened. So,
for those who don't know what that means, can you just give us a little idea?
okay. So what mitochondrial disease is, as we know, mitochondrial is like the very, very core of the cell. There's something that goes wrong, right, with that part of the cell. And they don't know what happens, but you know, there's no cure yet, but there's a lot of research going on. So we're trying to figure out a cure for why that happens, right, to infants. And because it usually happens when they're infants. And then some survive as old as 1 or 2 or 3 years old, maybe some older. But my granddaughter didn't make it. She was 3 months and a day old, but she had a lot of love surrounding her when that happened. So, yeah, the beauty of it is, though, my stepdaughter just had a baby 3 weeks ago, so she's definitely a baby girl, 6 pounds, 18 inches, definitely what they call a rainbow baby, because she was not trying to get pregnant. She wasn't supposed to get pregnant, but as they say, God had other plans, and here we are with a beautiful baby girl.
That's awesome.
I love that. And we didn't even plan on asking you about a shirt. I was just expecting you to joke with me and be like, yeah, I'm a 10 out of 10. But it's we got this wonderful, vulnerable story about your granddaughter.
Yeah.
So sweet. So tell us about you, Max. What is Who are you, first off? And what do you do? What do you love?
I love that question because, I used to give the pat answers, right? And I still will, right? I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a grandfather, I'm a brother. I've been clean and sober for almost 19 years now, come September.
Ooh, congratulations.
And
I'm going to push a
I've
button.
been-
Hang on. That's awesome.
Thank you. And I have been a substance abuse counselor for 18 of those years. I've also coach. I'm a recovery coach who helps executives, high performers, and CEOs not lose what they work so hard for. In regard whether it's substance abuse, depression, anxiety, or whatever challenge they're going through. And I'm an author. I wrote a book called Fearless Happiness. The happiness has a Y in it. And I've also been a co-author with Corey, as you know, in his book, the first bLU Talks book.
Oh, wait. Okay. I got to find you now.
You guys are book number 1 groupie co-conspirators. That's
Oh.
awesome.
There you are. Okay.
Yeah, right there.
There you are. There I am. Wait, other side. It's like, look, we're close.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, I'm just a human being who loves helping people
Aw.
become better versions of themselves. I've been
Mess
doing
the
it for so
messenger.
long. Yep.
Mess the messenger.
Oh yeah, and I had quite a big mess. I won't go into that because I could take up your whole interview process here.
But that is my favorite thing to ask about.
It's your
Well,
interview, Max.
You ask away. Whatever you want to know, I'm happy to share with you.
Okay, I don't think you know me very well because I will ask you what your deepest, darkest secrets are and your greatest desires. I've had one person answer me without even thinking. Everybody else is like, does she actually want to know? Yeah, I actually want to know.
Okay, well, one of my it's not a secret anymore because I've worked on it. One of my deepest, darkest secrets was that I had abandoned my children for 9 years because of my addiction. Right. And all the stuff that comes with addiction, stealing, lying. I mean, that's what kept me out there, right? The guilt and shame. Because every time I would come down off the drugs and alcohol, the guilt and shame kicked in and I'd say, oh no, I got to keep this going. And what I mean by abandoning my children, I would live in the same city as them and they could be in the house next door, literally. And I would either wait till they went to bed at night or go to school the next day. And then I would scurry and do my thing. And that was for like 9 years.
Wow.
Yeah, at the height of my addiction, I was getting in trouble with the law. I finally, as they say, got my first felony. But now at 18, now my felony is almost 20 years old, and I've turned my life around. And what I like to share is more not the war stories, but the struggles I went through in recovery and how I got through that. Right. So, I got what they call a nudge from the judge, right? You're going to go do these meetings. You're going to go live at this place. And if you mess up, you're going to go to prison for 3 years. And I'm like, oh, wow. I don't know about that because I had no idea at the time, Scott and Laura, what recovery was, let alone what AA was, what NA was, any AA or 12-step program. But and I was resigned to the fact, like, okay, I've gone so far down this rabbit hole that I know how to do 3 hots in a cot. Like that was where I was comfortable. And then but something happened where I said, no, I'm going to try this and I'm going to do it. Right. And I went to that place for a year and the judge said, you're going for a year. And if you screw up, you're going to prison for 3. Right. And I had my slips, my relapses. I did it 4 times while I was in that place. And but the last one is the one that really hit me hard. Right. Because a little background. Right. So I relapsed inside that sober living I was living in. And the director, here's where I call it divine intervention. The director, who never came on a weekend, let alone a Sunday, right, shows up after the house manager he didn't catch me, but he looked me in the eye and he knew. He's like, Max, in the office now, which meant I got a test. I'm going to pop dirty for a test, and then I'm going to prison because he's going to because this is my 4th relapse, and he's going to have to call my PO. Like, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to. And then I hear this knock on the door after I get dressed. I open the door and it's this lady, Sue, that ran the place. And I'm like, what are you doing here? And she's all happy. She's like, hey, Max, how you doing? And instead of lying, I told her, I said, I did it again. And she's all, what are you talking about? I go, I got high again, Sue. And she looked at me and she gave me this biggest bear hug you could ever have from somebody. And she said, pack your bag, get out of here for 3 days. come back, test clean, and we'll start over. And I've been sober since September 27th of 2003, right? Because at that moment when that happened, I had this conversation, which I like to, with my higher power, I call God. I said, God, you keep me sober and I'll do whatever it takes to stay sober. Like, I'm done. Because after that manager came, I was in the bathroom getting ready and I'm looking in the mirror, and this is literally what happened. My life flashed before me as I'm looking in the mirror. I was disgusted with who I saw in the mirror. And it was like my only options were, I'm either going to do this until I die or I'm going to go to prison. And that's when I said, I can't do this anymore, right? And those kids, a little background, those kids I hadn't seen in 9 years, when I got sober, at about 6 months sober, I got to see those children. And I was seeing them every weekend, right? Yeah. But here's what happened. When I went through those relapse and disappeared again for 5 months, and then at 30 days sober, I get this bright idea to tell my ex-wife, like, hey, I'm sober. Sorry, I relapsed. I'm not even going to tell you what she told me on air here, right?
We can guess a few things.
Right? You can guess what she's telling me, but I do remember was, you will never see these kids as long as I live, and bam, slam the phone. And that began my journey, right? Like, I kept telling myself, no matter what, I was never going to pick up a drink or a drug again. 2, I was going to do whatever my sponsor and mentors told me to do, because my way wasn't working. And I just started this long process of recovery. And I followed some suggestions, because I told my sponsor, who said, don't tell her that. I'll help you do that. Just don't, this is why Idiot was my nickname my first year of sobriety, right? Because I would do things without talking to someone first. I'd stay sober, but I would always get that little heartache, right? Like, oh, I should have done that. Like, oh. And so he said, call her every week. You tell her you're sober, you're working. And if she calls you a name, you hang up. And I did that for 14 months. And it was 2 days before Thanksgiving. She says, I'm back in Orange County. Come see the kids. Don't be late. And I've been back in their lives for going on 19 years now, right? And I got to make amends to that ex-wife that following Christmas, to my ex-in-laws, to my children. Has it been a fun ride? Absolutely not. Went through some struggles, right? And my children struggle with some stuff, but 2 of them are doing really well. One, I call her my workaholic, so she works as hard as she plays. But yeah, the journey of recovery has been long and winding. And I've went through probably the biggest struggles in my recovery than I ever did in my addiction. And what would happen, like 6 years ago, I would lose my sister after turning 13 years sober. 8 months later, my brother would take his own life and commit suicide and lose his battle to addiction. And then 6 months to the day on Thanksgiving Day, my mother would pass away, literally of a broken heart. And I would put my youngest daughter in treatment that day, or that following Monday. And I would just be like, okay, what's the lesson here, And someone had mentioned to me, and this as recently as 3 years ago, that granddaughter I told you, she passed away. And my son, a week later, almost died of a massive stroke because of his addiction.
Oh, wow.
Right. So I've had these conversations with mentors and coaches and my sponsor. And one guy, my buddy, real close friend of mine, he said, do you think you attract this stuff to you? And at first I was offended, but I listened. I go, what are you talking about? Like, and I kind of got off the phone really, angry, like, how dare he say I attract that negative? And then what's happened lately is I realized the lessons that I learned. Absolutely. Right? Because God has put me now in a position to help those who are going through similar struggles. Right? He's made me a warrior for others who might not know where to go for help. So I told him the other day, I go, yes, I attract it, right? Because God knows I'm strong enough to handle it.
Ah, yes.
And he goes, good answer. That's what I was looking for. But, that's my story in a nutshell. And it's been, I've worked in the addiction field for 14 years and I've got to see some sad stories. But it's always the ones they say that you say, come back and make it, that just make your day. Like you can't put a price on it,
Yeah.
So, and I've had a few of those, which has made it all worth it.
I love getting those random messages from people that you probably haven't heard about or heard from in, I don't know, like 10 years. And they're like, I've been watching you do all the amazing things that you've been doing, and I was not brave enough to say anything until now. And then they tell you like their journey, and you're just like, so I haven't been talking to myself this whole time. Like somebody is actually listening. I love that feeling. I love that feeling.
Exactly. I love when I get calls from guys that fought with me in the beginning, right? Like I walked into a detox one day. They said, "Hey, Max, you have this new client. Go introduce yourself. Just see how he's doing." I always did that. I'm like, sure. So I walked in, and I guess my reputation kind of had preceded me, right? So I walk in, and he wasn't so nice, and he says, "Max, I am not effing doing those 12 steps." And
Okay.
I said, "Well," I said, "Okay." I just came to see how you were doing. I just want to make sure you're okay. Well, a year later, I would get a call from him, and he said, "Hey, Max, I finished. I got my private pilot's license. I'm working with a sponsor." And then at year 2, he goes, I worked those steps, Max. I got a sponsor. I worked those steps. Now I'm working on my commercial license so I can be a pilot like my dad and grandfather for Delta Airlines." Like
Aw.
that's when you just go, okay, right? Like I can't take credit for it, but being that guide for him to stay sober and
Yeah.
find the tools that work for him makes it all worth it. Makes it.
Yeah, but that's the difference between you trying to go in and fix somebody, which we've talked about a few times this week, and you
Right.
going in and showing that you actually care about the person
Mm.
and their well-being. Like there's a whole other dynamic that happens with that.
Absolutely. Because I've learned I cannot fix anybody.
No.
Myself, yes, if I do the work, but I can't go into, like, say, sponsorship and go, "I'm going to fix you and you're going to stay sober for 20 years." Because most people will look at me and go, "Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, Max, do we need to test you? I think something's happened here." But I go into those situations and I ask, I've changed a lot where I leave it up to them. Like, what is your recovery going to look like?
Yeah.
Like, it's your journey. Like, I'm here to just guide you. You tell me what you want to do, and I'm going to hold you accountable to that. Whether it's 12 steps, whether it's right, say smart recovery, whether it's mindfulness, whether it's conscious. There's all kinds of different stuff.
So many.
My thing, yeah, and I just tell them, I go, whatever you pick, and you tell me that's what you're going to do. I go, I'm going to be your accountability partner. Make sure you do it. You
Yeah.
know.
One of my favorite phrases right now is that having a process is good. Having a niche process is great. Having a niche process personalized to you, the best thing you can do.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I thank you, first off, for telling us your deepest, darkest secret. I know that kind of stuff and the stories behind them can be really hard. But through that deepest, darkest secret, we got to learn a lot about who you are behind the work that you do. Do you have, like, if you could, we're going to ask the Corey question. If you could go back in time and tell your younger self, let's say in the midst of that enough is enough moment where you're just like, this is the worst of it. If you could go back and talk to that version of Max, what would you tell him?
I thought about that question. And it's tough to answer, but then it came to me. I would tell myself, lean into that suck, because you're going to learn something very powerful out of these tragedies you've gone through, out of these struggles you've gone through. And thank God for mentors and sponsors that have kicked me in the butt when I needed it, right? And one, that guy who said, my friend Chris Whitehead, who said, do you think you attract that, always used to teach me, lean into the suck. There's a lesson and then he would go, well, sometimes there's a lesson within the lesson, right? And I've done that for the last few years, like really dug deep. And that's what I would tell my younger self. Don't be afraid. It's going to be scary, but keep moving forward. And there's a lesson you're going to learn so that you can help somebody else.
I think that's a really hard thing for people to accept and understand, is that we are the architect of our life. And because we are beings of energy, we attract certain energies or repel them. And I think it's really hard to accept when you're attracting garbage. It's like,
Yeah.
well, come on, wasn't that random? No, it's not random, because
Right.
other people aren't attracting that. So it's tough to realize that energetically we manifest stuff to support us or teach us a lesson. And like, you know, I was in a near-death crash in a race, and one of my first questions is, well, why did I crash? And people are like, well, you don't crash on purpose. I'm like, something in there did that for a reason, and it sent me down the path of realizing that I had a great, huge fear of succeeding because I wasn't worthy and I wasn't good enough, and that I needed to be broken and the victim because that's what I was used to growing up, and realized that I needed to stop attracting that, and that I crashed. Like, even though it was a fluke accident, on some energetic level,
Yeah.
I was attracting that. And that's hard to hear.
Oh yeah. That's how I tell you. That was one of the hardest thing I ever heard, was him going, do you think you attract this? And, you know, and the beginning, I was like, how dare you? Yeah. If I was in the same room with you, I'd probably punch you in the mouth for saying that, you know? But luckily for me, I was like, I got to think about this. There might be something to this, right?
Yeah.
And then I came to the conclusion that God's made me one of his warriors so I could help people go through similar situations, right? Because we all need someone that we can look to that goes, wow, that guy did what I did. Like, how did he get through that? I need to ask him how he did it, you know? So I'm happy to be that guy. Yeah, when I'm going through it, am I happy? Of course not. You know, you have those conversations like, okay, God, this is not funny. I'm not liking your sense of humor right now. I know you're trying to make me strong, but it's not. Yeah, can you please just like take a break for today? You know?
Yeah, can we have a rest day? Maybe
Yeah,
like
can
the
we have a
week?
rest day? Yeah, you know, even in my workout, they say take a rest day, God, you know. And even on the seventh day, they said in the Bible that God rested on the seventh day. But I just know that I'm a constant work in progress. So whatever, right? Because if I don't learn a lesson, it's going to pop up again, and it's going to keep popping up. That's what I have learned in my recovery, is like, if I don't learn something, it's going to show up in this part of my life, right? Or it's going to show up in front of me and somebody else, and I'm witnessing it, right? So I know it's the universe or God telling me, you need to learn this lesson, and I'm not going to stop until you learn it.
That's what it feels like. Like Scott and I have so much in common. I was in a bike accident too. That's exactly what it felt like. I wasn't listening to all the subtle things the universe was saying to me. They're like, you're settling. No, you're still settling. You're still settling. Like, what do we need to do to smack you in the face?
Yeah.
And I almost got smacked in the face by an SUV and a telephone pole. So like, that was the thing.
Yeah. Yeah, he's not so subtle sometimes.
He's
You know what
not
I
so
mean?
subtle. And I
I was
pictured this little kid going, Mom, 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 and like pulling on your leg. And you know how they just get worse and worse until you finally pay attention to them? That's what it feels like. Mom, Mom, Mom.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I was told once that God whispers on the wind, and if you don't
Yep.
listen, he yells with the storm. And if you don't listen, he pounds on your door. And if you don't listen, he removes your house with a meteorite.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
That's like the whole, that's like the whole flood story, right? Where the guy is, you know, flood's coming. He gets warned by the fire department. Hey, look, flood's coming. You need to, you know, evacuate. Now God's going to save my life, right? Flood starts to happen. He goes up to the roof. Boater comes by, you know the story, right?
Yeah.
And at the end, he ends up dying, right? And then he tells God, he goes, I asked for help, but you didn't help me. And God goes, I sent the fire department, I sent a boat, and you didn't listen. So here you are. You know
He's
what
like,
I mean?
I sent the fire department, the National Guard, a boat,
Yes,
truck, a helicopter. Like, at some point, you have to accept the help.
Exactly. Yeah, there you go. I kind of shortened it, but that's exactly it, right?
So let's go there for a moment. The types of people that you help are very much the ones who want to hide, who don't generally want the help. How do you go into a situation like that and create an environment of transformation?
Well, there's usually two questions that I ask that help me with that, right? And it lets me know where they're at in that journey. And I ask them, do you think you have a problem? first and
Ooh.
foremost.
Mhm.
And if they can honestly, and I tell them, just answer me honestly. Okay, yeah, I think I have a problem. And then I ask them, are you willing to do anything to solve that problem? And if they hesitate or they say, let me think about it, I tell them you're not ready.
Yeah.
And usually they're not, right? But the ones that I'll answer, tell me what to do, I'm ready. I'm like, okay. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, this is what we're gonna do, right? Is it gonna be perfect? No, but here's what we're gonna do. This is how we're gonna start. Right? You just admitted to me that one, you had a problem, two, you're willing to do anything to get better. And then we go from there. And those are usually my signs because I've like even in my program, I've worked with guys that I sponsor, or they ask me, hey, I think I have a problem, but I don't know if I want to do this or that. I go, well, you're not ready yet. Then, let me know when you're done. Right. Because I won't try to save them. If they go relapse, I always tell them, I go, I'll pray for you. I hope you make it back. Right. Because we all know this fentanyl thing that's going on right nowadays. And I always just tell them, I hope you make it back. I'll be here when you get back. Because I'll never tell anyone, no, I can't help you. That's not what I do.
Nah.
But they have to be ready to accept the help the way it's given, right? They can't dictate how that help looks because usually it doesn't work. When I tried it, it didn't work.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's true of all realms. I mean, I'm a health and fitness coach, and when people come to me because they should drop some weight and the doctor says they better and their family says they need to, but they don't want to, there's very little I can do for you. But when you come to me and you've had enough and you're done, like you're just done. Okay, now we can talk. Now we can, because you have to be ready to change, right?
Right. Exactly. Right. And that's where those the stages of change come in. Right. As the guy that's trying to help, I'm trying to figure out where they are at in that stage. Right. Because if they're in the beginning, right, contemplation or whatever, they're not even ready. They don't even admit they have a problem half the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pre-contemplation. They're like, la la la
Or
la
exactly. I don't hear you.
la 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 la.
Well, I think one of the
Exactly.
biggest challenges that you as an addictions counselor and a coach face are the same that I face as a health and nutrition coach, is that human beings run on two things and two things only: seek pleasure, avoid pain. That's it. Everything boils down to seek pleasure, avoid pain. And we'll put up with a certain amount of pain if it gives us enough pleasure. But the challenge with things like quitting drugs or quitting smoking, quitting drinking is it's painful. It's uncomfortable. There's withdrawals. And an instant pleasure is go back to it every time. And so to quit that pleasure-giving addiction and to go into the pain of withdrawal and the social pain of not being in your circle of friends and the social pain of not having it take the edge off life and all of the, you have to get through enough pain to get enough distance to realize, oh, that pleasure was fake. There's more pleasure over here. And that pleasure was causing massive amounts of pain, like not seeing your children for 9 years and losing everything and being in institutions or prison. Like, but you can't see that.
No.
And how do you coach people through that when they're right in the thick of this feels good, that's going to suck? How do you bring them to the suck? Come on, let's go suck. Come on.
Right. Well, one of the things I tell them is I go, look, your best thinking got you here. Like if it didn't suck, if it didn't hurt, why are you even here asking me for help?
Yes.
Right. And then I want them to think about it, right? Like, where were you just a day or two or a week ago that brought you here to talk to me about doing something different?
Yeah.
Right. Because I tell my clients, I want you to remember where you came from. That healthy fear will keep you from going backwards. Right. We don't have to be obsessed over it. But when we think like, okay, maybe a drink sounds good today, my brain goes, okay, fast forward, plays the tape forward, shows me where I've been and where I could go again. And I go, never mind. Right. And that's kind of what I want my clients to do, is have that mental tape in their head where they think about what's going on and like, oh yeah, why am I here asking Max for help? It wasn't all peaches and cream just a day ago. Like I was looking, I was shaking and baking in the hospital,
Yeah.
Now I want chicken.
How we met by shake and bake.
Okay, I do have to say that I loved that phrase. Your best thinking got you here. And that doesn't matter if you have an addiction or you're super successful or whatever end of the spectrum you want to look at. Your thinking got you to where you are. And if you want to be beyond that, then you have to create new thinking. You have to involve new thinking. And if you're not
Yes.
going out and searching for that and gathering that, then you have to surround yourself with the people who already have that, like
Yep.
you. Oh, did we just lose him for a moment?
Maybe the screen. Max, are you still there with us?
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's okay.
Okay. Ah,
We're
there
back.
you are.
I'm back.
It's all good.
It was magic. You didn't realize this, but Max can do magic.
Like-
You can disappear. Ready?
Oh, nice. Yes, we were talking to Susan yesterday about magic. She was
Yeah.
like, I could disappear. I enjoyed it.
Yes.
So on that note, what would be something magical about you, Max? What is the Max magic? Sparkle.
The
sparkle.
mat. Well, this is what I'm going to tell you what has been told to me, right?
Ooh.
I-
Are you going
I've
to
been told-
practice accepting it as you tell us?
Yeah, absolutely, right?
Okay.
I've been told my superpower is connection, is being able to connect with people, right? Because what I've learned in my journey from addiction to recovery is that the opposite of addiction is not sobriety, but it's connection.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And
Oh, I
is
do.
right and I'm on this mission to try to break that stigma, right? By loving on the addict, by caring for the addict or the alcoholic or whoever's struggling with whatever, right? Because when you get that, when I was going through it, there was enough people that looked at me cross-eyed and, ooh, we better walk around this guy. He doesn't look well. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
but I remind people that we are not bad people. We are just sick people trying to get well.
Yeah. And I'm
Right.
trying to teach that to my daughter too, because it's not just about addictions. Anytime that we go down that path of, in my mind, it's trying to fill a need. There's
Absolutely.
some sort of lack of love or lack of needs being filled, and we're trying to fill that in any way that we know how in that moment. And if that
Yep.
starts off with a drink that just happened to turn into addiction, or video games for 6 years where you started skipping class for the first time ever and you were very much a goody two shoes who did absolutely nothing wrong, and then started doing that. Like, I have my own
Ah.
versions of addictions,
Right.
which thankfully isn't. I'm going to rephrase that. It looks different than a drug or alcohol addiction, but it can be just as damaging in different ways.
Well, we all know that there's different types of addiction. It's not just drugs and alcohol. It could be the internet. It could be Facebook. It could be
The life.
it could be food. It could be work. It could be whatever. That's what I've learned.
And part of it is like realizing too that you're never free from it in a sense, right? Like once you've gotten to the place of being an alcoholic, you're never not. That's always waiting for you if you're not careful. There was a song my parents used to listen to, which was ultimately tragic. It was called, it was back in the 50s, and it was one's one too many because then 1,000's not enough.
Right.
Right.
And there's different thoughts to that. There's some people that think once you get recovered, you're done. But I leave that up to the individual.
Sure. Okay.
You know what I mean?
So is that no longer kind of the stigma or the case then? Like to my knowledge, it's limited.
It's still there. And the 12-step, community believes that once an addict or an alcoholic, always an alcoholic, right? It's what we do to stay recovered.
It's Liz. I have a ride coming in about probably 7 minutes.
Excuse me.
I thought we were
no worries.
done it.
Oh, I was just about to mute him for a moment.
Just mute him for a second.
Okay.
That's all good.
Yeah, no worries. This has been so interesting. And I do like that we brought up the fact that addiction isn't just the typical addictions.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't share that with people for a long time because I didn't want to admit that I was addicted to video games.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. I spent 6 years as many hours and moments and seconds a day playing this because it was my escape.
Yeah.
And I know that connects with a lot of people. Was there something in your life that you turned to as an escape, Scotty, since we're here?
Yeah, because there's lots of different addictions and stuff.
Yeah.
I kind of was addicted to food and video games like you. I'd be
Mhm.
playing till 3, 4 in the morning, knowing I had to go to work the next day.
Yep.
That kind of stuff. And then once I got fit and healthy, that became a different kind of addiction, but that can also be unhealthy,
Yeah.
right? But at least it's got benefits to a degree. But at some point I was kind of addicted to endurance training to the point where it took over my whole life, and then it's not healthy again. So it's finding that place where it's balanced, if I may. And then when I rebalanced my exercise addiction, then it became a work addiction. Well, now you're a workaholic, and it's like, okay, hang on there, coach. Like, so there's a lot to learn at all times, I think.
So Max, what is that? Can you help us with that? What is the difference between like an addiction and something that we're either passionate about or that we do a lot?
So like an addiction, when that takes over, right? I'll give you what the dictionary says.
I love the dictionary ones.
Right? And that's true, though.
Dictionary.com is one of my favorite websites.
What's that?
I said dictionary.com is one of my favorite websites.
Right. So the dictionary tells you the fact or condition of being addicted to a particular substance, thing, or activity, right?
Yeah.
But what we like to talk about in the program or in treatment, right? It's like addiction means like that thing, whatever it is, has taken over so much that it's affected every area of your life, family, faith, finance. You know what I mean? Like you don't care what happens. You're not doing what we should be doing as, hardworking members of society, right? Like for me, that's what happened, right? When I became addicted to meth and alcohol, like it didn't matter if I worked or saw my kids. That was my main focus, was getting my next drink or my next drug, despite the consequences, right? And even when I was looking at that judge and facing 3 years, I was thinking to myself in the beginning, this is just bad luck. If he just gives me a break, I'll do it differently. It'll be different, and I can go back to what I was doing. And then the reality kicked in and said, no, you got a problem. Like you really need to think about what you're doing.
Yeah. I realized that it was an addiction for me when it was time for me to feed my daughter at I don't know, midnight, because I'm still playing video games and she was breastfed. It's not like I could get my husband to just go and feed my daughter. And in my mind, it was, I don't want to go feed her. I'm in the middle of playing my game. And that's when it went, oh crap, I'm addicted to this. This is not healthy. It has to stop. And I quit cold turkey. But you have that feeling in the background where I am afraid to go back and play that game again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because of the escapism of it.
I think that's one of the troubles too, that and Max, you can certainly enlighten in this, is that environment is stronger than willpower in most cases. And what you just said, Laura, was very key. It's like, I'm the same. I deleted all the video games from my computer because I can't just play a little bit. And if you're like, if you're a recovering alcoholic, don't go to the bar on happy hour with your drunk friends. Like you're
well, there's this saying, right? You go to the barbershop enough, you get bound to get a haircut, or if you hang out with the dogs long enough, you're going to get fleas. So be careful with the company you keep, right. Surround yourself with the good people, the people that are doing the same thing you're doing, right? Mm-hmm. Like in business, right? Or even better, like in business, right? If you want to be successful, I can't hang around people that are where I'm at or not where I'm at, right? And so I want to be successful, right? I got to hang out with people that are where I want to be or doing way better, so I can learn from what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's when you're if being a personality on some spectrum was 1 through 10, if you're a level 3 person and you hang around to a level 5 person, a bunch of level 5 people, pretty soon you're going to be a 5. And if you hang around with 7 people, you're going to grow to a 7. But if you're a 3 and you hang around with 1s,
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
It's that whole saying, if you hang around 5 millionaires, you'll probably be the sixth,
Mhm.
right? But if you hang around 5 thieves, you're probably going to be the sixth.
Yeah. 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 That's amazing. So Max, I mean, it's got to be a crazy, amazing gift to be a coach. What's it like to work with you? How do you work with people? What does that look like?
Like most people, we all know like a lot of it's virtual, right? So I do a lot of one-on-ones, homework assignments, right? Stuff to get them thinking, to get them past that, maybe that bump in the road where like, I don't know what to do, right? So I'm always giving my clients a homework assignment, right? Whether
Me
like
too.
whether it's a gratitude list. Like my first thing is you're going to start a gratitude journal, right?
Mm.
We're going to get rid of it. We're going to try to get rid of that negative self-talk, right? Because we all know through science that if you put enough positive things in your brain, you're going to build new neural pathways that are more positive, right? So I have them do that for the first 2 weeks, just so they can start thinking, right? And they don't even have to be big things to be grateful for. It could be like, I woke up and had a cup of coffee. I woke up and, I went and walked my dog, or I woke up this morning.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just small stuff. And that's how I do it. But, I hate to say this. I got a messages coming through on my computer that works like looking for me. So I thought I'd have more time, but that's how I do it. I like to do a lot more one-on-ones, not just here's some assignments, get them done, we'll meet again. And I make myself, especially if they're going through the recovery process, I make myself available 24/7. So that way, if they're struggling, I don't want them to have an excuse going, I couldn't call you because I didn't have your number.
Right.
I said, I'd rather have you wake up and say, I have this thought of drinking, we could talk through it. Then you go, oh, I couldn't get a hold of you. So I ended up at the bar down the street and here I am now, all over again.
Yeah.
So that's what I do when it comes to that.
So quickly then, how do we find you so we can work with you or talk to you?
I have a website. It's maxnijst, all lowercase .org. You can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. You'll notice I post something every day. I try to post something positive every day and to add value to people's life. And yeah, you could DM me on Facebook or hit up my website and leave me a message and I'll get back to you.
I'm
Sounds
posting
wonderful.
those right now.
Oh, yeah.
.org. That's important. I had a .ca.com thing around
Oh.
there. So maxnijst.org.
Yeah, if you do maxnijst.com, it'll direct you to my new website.
Oh, smart. Good.
Yeah.
Excellent, Max. Well, I know you've got to go, and that's okay. Our next amazing guest, Heidi, is in the wings, so we're cool if you need to go. It's been amazing. Keep changing the world, buddy.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. Thank you so much for having me. I had a great time.
Awesome, Max. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Have a great day, you guys.
Yeah. All right. Wow. Okay. Big breath.
Yeah.
What a spectrum today, hey?
And you know what was weird? This morning, I'm sending out links to people to make sure that they had the right link for this. And I sent one to our next guest. I'm like, this is so weird to send her links instead of her sending me links.
I know. Wasn't she in charge a while ago?
I know.
Yeah. It's awesome.
It was really fun.
It's full circle. We've had such a spectrum today. I'm amazed. Like, we've just had quite the range. I mean, helping women get published to a former model who's helping women who've gone through toxic trauma get back to health and fitness, and now a former addict. And our next guest, Heidi, has a whole different spectrum of things that she helps people with, and a very, very important piece. So let's bring Heidi on. So welcome, Heidi.
Welcome. Thanks everyone for having me.
Oh, it's so good to have you here. And like Laura was saying, it's so fun to have we've flipped the script, because so many times we've been on things with Corey Poirier through the bLU Talks, and you've been in the background managing StreamYard and making all the magic happen.
And keeping Corey on time, which we highly appreciate.
Yeah, and I'm actually I'm in New York right now. I just finished bLU Talks New York with Corey, so I'm doing his live stuff too. So
nice.
Not only doing it online, trying to keep that guy on time, it's got to do it in person too. So that's why I'm a little dark, because I'm in a hotel room. I apologize.
What would we do without you?
Things went well in New York?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Some great speakers, lots of, you got to love it when it's people come up and they do their first talk for the very first time in front of a camera, in front of an audience, and really cool to see some people just, leaning in and supporting their courage and proving their passion to make it happen. It was an awesome couple days. So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's, I got to say, that's one of my favorite things. I was in a triathlon, I don't know, 3 weeks ago or whatever. And I mean, I've been doing it since 2004, and it's fun to be in transition. And people walk up to me because I have a $10,000 carbon fiber race bike and all this stuff. And they walk up and they go, sorry, you kind of look like you've done this before. Hey, do you know what do we, and you go over to help, and they've got like a fat saddle cruiser bike with the basket and fenders. And I just love it. I'm like, you're the birth of this. Like, you never know where this takes you.
Yeah.
And I'm so proud because you barely got through the swim, and then you got on your bike and you rode, and then you kind of went for a shuffle jog, and you're still a triathlete. You still, I love it. Love it. I imagine it's the same.
Cool. Yeah, it was cool. It was a great event. I'm really excited. Looking forward to the upcoming other summer ones, and later this fall, Toronto and Miami. So we're going to have some fun.
Yeah, it's very exciting. So Heidi, tell us about yourself. What do you do? How did you get to where you are?
Well, you guys know me as the event lady, the lady who keeps everybody on track.
And other things.
I actually did my first bLU talk with you in Edmonton in March, and I talked about living legacy. And I'm a certified grief educator, and today I'd love to chat about what to say and not to say to somebody who's grieving.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I teach people. It's what I'm passionate about. I've come by that story with my own experience. I lost my husband unexpectedly 3.5 years ago. He died unexpectedly 2 days after Christmas and the day before my 40th birthday. And just a really tough time. And I really learned, I had a lot of great friends and family around me, but they often said things that just missed the mark. And as I spent more and more time with other grievers and other widows, I learned that story is similar for so many people, almost all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it isn't because our friends and family are trying to hurt us or they've got malice or ill intent. It's because they've never been taught.
We don't know what to say.
Yeah, it's awkward. We're all worried about sticking our foot in our mouth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so, and we just don't talk about it. We don't live in a culture that is okay with pain. And grief is a normal pain. Like, we all will grieve. And it isn't just when somebody dies either. Like, we go through grief all the time. We've all gone through grief during the pandemic as we get locked down and stuff. But I really wanted to help people to be able to support people, because grief, I believe, is love. It hurts us. We feel that hurt because we've loved that person. We've loved that relationship. We've loved whatever, that job, whatever that is. We've loved them, and it hurts because we don't have it anymore. We're going through that change. And instead, what people try to do is find ways to find the silver lining or let's gloss over it and try to make them feel better. Well, you can't be happy without sadness. Mm-hmm. It's that yin and yang. And when we can witness it and when we can hold space for people, it allows them to be who they need to be in those moments. They don't have to be somebody else. Mm-hmm. And the hardest part for grievers is they feel like they have to armor up and be somebody else for them, for other people.
Yeah.
Right. And so a lot of people will say, at least they're not suffering anymore, or at least you can have another child. And you don't really realize that those sentences are not acknowledging the person right in front of you. The person right in front of you is suffering. They maybe knew that their person was sick. They maybe knew that person was going to die, but now they're suffering because they miss their person. They maybe miss their dad or their mom or their spouse or their child. And the at least just makes it feel like how they feel doesn't matter anymore. So it's those kind of things that really hurt. And when we can just sit and hold space, and when you don't know what to say, I don't have words. I can't make this better. I can't bring your person back, but you're important to me and you matter to me, and I want to be with you. I don't want you to have to go through this alone. Can make such a big difference.
Because it's hard to see your friends hurt, and we want to make it okay, but sometimes you can't.
You can't. unless you have a magic wand to bring their person back.
Right.
You got that right there, Laura. I see it. I saw your magic blue pen.
Yeah.
Right.
I made sure it was blue for Blue Talks.
Nice word. Well planned. But it's that, you know, being okay to say, I don't know, I can't fix this, but you're important to me. Because I can also say that the silence in grief is deafening. And there's a lot of people that lose their friends and family because they don't know what to say. And they're like, they weren't there for me anymore. And that silence, it means the relationship can often die off. And that's really sad too, because then the griever has to grieve that as well.
Yeah. There's so many layers to it.
Yeah. I have a question, Heidi, and I've been wondering this for a long time, but I don't want to like give you too much about it. So I'll be very generic. How do you help people grieving the old versions of themselves? So every time we grow, there's that old version. And personally, I feel this a lot because I'm doing a lot of spiritual growth and a lot of like inner growth. I get these phases, and I'm in another one right now where I'm grieving that old version of me, even if that old version of me was last month.
So to begin with, grief is love.
Yeah.
So know that you're loving yourself first, like that you still loved who you were first, right? Like, and now you've grown, and it's like, oh, I miss those pieces of me. And maybe you don't miss all of them, right? We can grieve people we didn't like either, right? I mean, I know people that their dad wasn't a very nice dad, and they grieve the fact that I didn't like that person, and I wish they were somebody different in my life. So parts of it might be like, hey, I'm grieving some of the pieces that I'm okay letting go, but some of the ones that you're holding on to are ones that you're like, hey, those are the ones I still need to fit into this new life.
Yeah.
Know that it's love. That's how grief is. It wouldn't hurt if we didn't love our person. My first grief counselor, my first really good grief counselor said that. Like, I sat bawling in a chair probably about 7 months after Mike died. And I said, I'm sorry, I'm a mess. And she's like, Heidi, when I witness deep grief like this, it's because I'm witnessing that there was deep love. And so I think it's really cool, Laura, that you love yourself that deeply, because a lot of people don't get to do that.
Thank you.
And I think, is there a risk to, like I know when I was young, we went through a period of time in my family where I began to hate January because every year somebody very close to me died.
Did you say January? Sorry.
January.
Okay.
Yeah. It started with my grandma, my dad's mom. She taught me to cook. She taught me to love cooking. She taught me to bake. She was this most amazing, wonderful lady, and she passed away. And then a year later, and it's been so long now, it's hard to remember the order of them all, but my mom's mom died. Again, another amazing cook, another wonderful lady in our lives. And then a year later to the day, my dad died when I was 16. And then a week later, my uncle Denny died of throat cancer. And then I think it was 2 years later, then my aunt Elaine passed away. And it just, after a while, like somebody like my Aunt Elaine was my favorite aunt. And that I would like not go home from school sometimes. I would go to my aunt's house and hang out with her, and we would play games and stuff. And then she passed. And it just, after a while, I don't want to say I got numb to it or I got used to it, but I just, after a while, I became a little numb to it. And then I just sort of walled off somehow. And then once in a while I would talk to them, and it's almost like having a burning coal that's in your pocket, and as long as you don't stick your hand in your pocket, you're okay. But as soon as you stick your hand in your pocket, like, oh my God, that's still hot, and I'm bawling again. And like, I don't know, maybe speak to that somehow.
I think you need to remember that grief as individuals, your fingerprint. So none of us do it the same. So, right. And so some people, they're like, I mean, I met a lady the first time I went to grief counseling. I'm walking out, I've been bawling, and she's like, did you just leave the grief program? And I'm like, yeah. She goes, I'm just going there. She goes, who did you lose? And I'm like, my spouse. She's like, how long ago? I go, 6-7 months ago. She's like, so do the work now. She goes, my husband died 7 years ago, and this is my second session. She goes, I ran away for 7 years and traveled and avoided the pain. Who am I to judge how she does it?
Sure.
How you do it isn't for me to judge or how to tell you how to do it. But because we do live in this world that doesn't do pain very well, we often tend to, I got to deal with that later. January just sucks. I'm just going to pile a bunch of work in there.
Yeah.
And I want you to remember that grief is love, and you're missing them because you love them.
Mm-hmm.
And so kind of like the talk you heard in March, Scott, when you can find places where you can honor. So maybe it's making your grandma's favorite recipe that you loved, or maybe it's, doing something in honor of that aunt that you love spending time with, where you can honor them and feel like, hey, you know what? January is a hard month. It's when I've lost them, but it's also where I want to honor them and remember them. Or maybe it's that's something you do on a regular basis so that it isn't feeling like you are missing out on something, right? And so many of us, we lose people that we love, and we're so afraid that as the time passes, their memory is going to slip away as well. And so when we can find those places and spaces where we honor them, and when we hold those legacies for them, it can be really, really beautiful. And it can be just you. You could be like, this is what I want for my child to be a part of this, and know that I'm intertwining those legacies into my child's life now, that these people impacted me, and now their legacy's living on in how you share it with your children. It could be like, hey, my mom loved volunteering at the soup kitchen. Who's coming to the soup kitchen with me? And maybe you're showing up with 25 people to volunteer. Whatever that looks like, it can be however we want it to be. Mm-hmm. And you will have people that'll naysay around you. We always do. I always say the hard part with grief is that there's a lot of judgment and self-judgment, right? Mm-hmm. And I remind people that we don't judge how people celebrate or how people are happy. Think about America's Got Talent. When they hit that golden buzzer, do they all celebrate the same way? You got one person running around the stage screaming. You got one person praising their creator. You got one person who's bawling their eyes out. You got people that are just jumping up and down. They don't know what to do. And you got some people that are just standing there absorbing it. And we never judge them. Mm-hmm. Yet we judge how people go through pain.
That's so true.
And so when we can let those judgments go and say how they're doing it, it's as individuals, their fingerprints. So they have to do it their way, and let them do it. Mm-hmm. That's where the beauty comes in, because I believe judgment is grief's kryptonite. Mm-hmm. I believe that's where we kill that connection, where we don't allow people to be seen. We don't allow them to honor their people in beautiful ways. And if we can just let that go and be like, Scott, even the way you described some of the ways of you block things off. Well, you're kind of judging yourself. Like, am I doing it the right way? Am I doing wrong?
Am I doing this wrong?
Yeah, you're not. Because it's as individual as this. And so just be like, this hurts. This sucks. I lost people I love. Mm-hmm. Right? And so know that you can't do it wrong, because you can't. It's your way. Yeah. Right?
Well, then if we're all feeling grief in a different way, and it's as unique as our fingerprint, wow, then how do you guide somebody through the process of working through their grief if it's so personal?
I don't. That isn't my gift. That's why I say, go see a psychologist, go see a grief counselor, go see a grief coach. I do encourage people, specifically go see grief people, because I can tell you, like, I was chatting with a widow not that long ago, and her family doctor said to her, out of all my patients, you take the prize in grieving the hardest. From a family doctor, and her husband died 9 months ago. Right? Wow. So we've got really trained people that don't have a lot of expertise in grief, because it's not really talked about enough.
Yeah.
So I encourage, if you're grieving, go and see a grief person. If you read Megan Devine's book, It's Okay That You're Not Okay, she used to be a psychologist, and she was at a river with her husband, and her husband drowned. And she realized after all the years of being a psychologist, all the terrible things she said to grievers, because that's what she was trained. And now she's like, we need to change the narrative. We need to change how we do this. We need to see people and allow them to grieve and know that it's still beautiful. It's hard. I'm going to tell you, I was not prepared to lose my husband. I was not prepared to go through some of that pain. But I can also tell you that there's been some beautiful moments in it too. And as much as I would have him back tomorrow in a heartbeat, I miss him dearly. I also know that there's a lot of pain in having to say goodbye to him again.
Right? I know grief is one of those things that has brought my family closer together every single time. Every time we lost a pet or a person, it's like we're all there for each other, even if we do it imperfectly.
Yeah.
And then
you're just doing differently.
Yeah. And then recently, like things got really dark, really quick, with a lot of grief from, it felt like 10 different places all at the same time, which has led to like a lot of growth, hence all of the tears and the mess right now. But I can say that this has been a wonderful experience, even to have gone through it, because of how my family has grown closer together. Even if that was the only thing that we got out of this, totally worth it. Totally worth it. So let's talk about some of those things we probably shouldn't say. And I'm thinking back to my accident while I'm laying on the ground. One of the paramedics said to me, if you were any other person, you'd be dead right now. He tried to make me feel better, but that was the phrase that stuck in my mind. And that's what caused, my opinion is that's really what caused the PTSD. That moment of shock. So let's talk about phrases.
Well, it's already a lot of pressure. You get a statement like that. It's like, can I mess this up somehow? Like, I'm hurt. Like, I'm broken.
Yeah.
And now you've got me like, I should be dead. Like, that's a lot of pressure, right? So
that's the interesting thing too. Sorry, is how, because a doctor told me the same thing when I was in the trauma unit at the brain trauma unit in Hawaii. I had one of the doctors say, you're really lucky that you were so fit and healthy. A normal person would have died from this. And okay, so then I was like, wow, I'm glad I was fit and healthy, but ouch. But it's so individual. Like you said, it's as individual as a fingerprint. And we're not programmed. I think we don't know what to say.
Because everybody is so different, we have no idea where they are. And the hard part too is grief is one word that describes an umbrella of emotions, right? Like you could be sad, you could be angry, you could be pissed off, you could have regret, you could have you could be lonely. Like there's an abundance. I call grief the crazy train of grief. It's a 10 coupon ride and you don't get to choose when you get off.
That I love.
Right? Like it is, some days it's going slow, some days it's like a crazy hill and then you're spinning upside down. You have no idea. And I can tell you, like, you guys know me. I'm good at keeping things on time. I tried to schedule grief in my calendar. It doesn't work like that.
No.
I'm like 2 hours to grieve. It doesn't happen when you want it to.
No.
Right? So it's like it can hit home hard and it can hurt when we least expect it. And for some reason, our society, we need things to fit in nice little boxes with a little bow. Grief doesn't fit like that, right? So we're like, okay, you've had the funeral. I don't need to do anything anymore. Like I've sent the flowers, I've sent the card, I've gone to the service. I even made you a lasagna, my grandma's vintage Pyrex, and it's in your freezer. And I hope I get that Pyrex back in 6 months, right? We do that crazy stuff in our world. And then it's all done and we get quiet and we're like, okay, I've done everything I'm supposed to. I've said I'm sorry for your loss, which doesn't make sense to me. Think about the words. I'm sorry for your loss.
I don't like saying that.
If you're 6, what does it sound like? What did you do wrong?
Yeah.
So I don't say it. I say,
like you lost.
Yeah. Or you broke it. Did you kill my grandma? It doesn't, the words actually don't make sense to me. You say it to an 80-year-old woman, they're like, no, I'm sorry for a loss. That's what's supposed to be said. But I'm finding now more and more the younger generation is like, those words don't make sense. And I can tell you, as a widow, somebody said it to me. My response was, thank you. And the connection stops there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like saying, thank you for your service. The connection stops there.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing else to say, because it's like, it's your loss. And so what I say to people is, losing a mom is a significant loss. And my heart goes out to you. I'm keeping you in my thoughts and prayers. Or I've lit a candle in honor of your person.
I like to say hugs.
Yeah.
Because in person, that's what I would do. And not everybody likes real hugs. So it's really easy virtually to just type out hugs.
Yeah.
And if I know that they like hugs, I'll add a hug emoji. Or like a GIF or something.
And I do like that one because it basically says, listen, I care about you and I see that you're hurting.
Yeah.
I can't fix that. I give you a hug.
Yeah.
Because I love you too, and I get that it's hard. And I would say, and actually Katrina mentioned this, and it's funny because I was thinking of it as well. Katrina made a comment. She said COVID-19 did not allow the normal grief process for families to occur. She was on the front lines of the medical system. She said it was so sad to watch daily. And I know personally, I didn't want to talk about this because I know where I'm headed, but my birth mom passed away through the pandemic, and we were not allowed to see her when she was the most sick. We had to cancel the trips to visit her, and there was no funeral. She's just gone. There was nothing. And then when my mom, the lady I've always known as my mom, my adoptive mom, when she got really sick, she was in the hospital. We were not allowed to see her. She was put in a room by herself and left alone to die in a corner in her late 80s. And one person was a designated family member to go in for a 1 hour maximum, one time per day kind of thing for a while. And it was awful. And we had to fight the medical system constantly to be allowed to go visit my mom. And we were able to get in a couple of times, and man, that it was not human for 2 years. And I feel like there's a whack of people right now that are like I am still, because it's incomplete.
It is incomplete. And I feel like because we had this surge of death around a 2-year period, it feels like for a lot of people that have experienced death, that the death is insignificant. That if it would have happened before the pandemic, if it would happen now or we could do it, it would feel more significant, so they don't feel like they have a place and space to move through the emotions.
Mm-hmm.
To go, this isn't, because there was no normal. There was no normal to it. There was no, we normally know we're going to go through, we're going to, see, especially when somebody's ill,
Mm-hmm.
and we're anticipating the death. We know that there's these places and spaces that we can go. We can go to the hospital. We start to say our goodbyes. We start to hold places where we maybe have memories. Maybe some people even take photos or get a death doula and move through that transition. And then we have the funeral and the ceremony around it. And when we lose that, it's already such an uncomfortable process. Now we're kind of walking through quicksand with cement shoes on.
Yeah, we don't even know
where to go.
We don't even have the process that we've come to know. Like when Diane passed away of cancer, there was nothing. It was just, well, she's gone now. Well, wait a second. I need that time to be with my family and ugly ball for a while.
And you deserve that.
We didn't get one.
Yeah.
I ugly balled at home, but because grief is crazy. It's there's no pattern. There's no, like you said, it's as individual as a fingerprint.
It is. And we don't, because we think it's so individual, we think we have to do it alone. That those people have to move through those emotions because it's not going to look the same as mine.
Mm-hmm.
And because we don't do this pain thing really well, it means that we either don't want to see it or we don't want others to see it. And I'm guilty of, I can tell you, when I went to open that door and get in my car, I magically would put on this armor and be okay. And I wasn't okay. And so, I mean, I had people, and we do this in our culture, we force people to lie to us all the time. And we say, how are you? And many people go through their day and they say they're good, fine, or okay. Somebody who's grieving is none of those. None of them. Grief leaves you living in the moment. And so instead of saying, how are you to a griever, ask, how's today?
Ooh.
And I actually have stopped saying, how are you in general? I want to know how somebody is right in front of me. How's today? So that somebody can say, I haven't been sleeping. I mean, I lost 30 pounds in 3 months after Mike died. And I got some weight to lose. Don't get me wrong. It's not like I'm a fine specimen of health. But 30 pounds in 3 months is a lot. And people were like, you look fabulous. I felt like a pile of dog poo. And I had one friend who said, is it because you're not eating? I said, I hate eating alone. And my mental capacity to cook more than one thing in a pot without burning it, I have zero ability to multitask. She's like, please come over for dinner. And then next week I'm going to bring dinner and we'll have leftovers for you. And, somebody just leaned in and said, we gotta look at this. Like, I don't want you to waste away to nothing. Like, your health is important. And I get that that's not a priority in this moment, and so we always look for those good things and know that when somebody's grieving, it's okay to lean in and say, hey, you look a little tired. Are you sleeping? Honor them, see that they're in pain, see that they're not the same. And when you say that, how's today? Or if you get that question, how's today? Be honest as a griever. Be honest. Say, I miss my person, or this is harder than I thought it would be. Be open and say that. Like, it's okay that we can be vulnerable with each other. If somebody's going to ask, as a griever, embrace that. Because I can tell you, many grievers walk this journey so alone. So when we can take the moments and lean in and support somebody, and sometimes it could just be as simple as hearing them or saying, I see that your pants are a little baggy. What's going on? It could be like, holy crap, somebody sees me. That's what people want. They want to be witnessed. They want somebody to say, I see this sucks. I have a friend whose son, 25 years old, just passed away in an accident recently. And that's all I got. I'm like, dude, this sucks. I wish it was different for you. I can't bring his son back. And the reality is it does suck. And say it. It sucks. We love our people. We'd want them to be here. Don't turn around and tell somebody, oh, they're not suffering anymore. That's not for us to judge.
Oh, at least they died doing what they love. They're still dead.
Yeah.
Right? I have one of my best friends died in a mountain bike crash.
Yeah.
He was doing what he loved, but he's still dead, and I still miss him.
Yeah, exactly. So any sentence that starts with at least, don't say it. Don't say it. It's not effective. It's finding the silver. At least you can still have children or another child.
Oh my God. Oof.
And yes, it gets said. 2 days after my husband's funeral, it was, at least you can find love again. I'm still in love. Just because he died, the switch didn't turn off.
Whew, thank God that guy's gone. All right, Tinder, let's start.
Got to get a newer model.
Thank you. Next.
Maybe I can upgrade. Really?
Doesn't
Yeah.
look like that.
It's so hard. Oh man, grief is so hard. I have
and the hard part too is the way our culture tries to relate and empathize with pain as we compare it. So I understand grief. I went through divorce. Don't say that to a widow. Not appropriate. Because guess what? You still can hear their voice. You can still bump into them at the mall. You can still co-parent with them. Somebody who's a widow doesn't get to, or a widower. That person's gone. It's not the same. It's like comparing a paper cut to an amputee.
Right.
Oh God.
Right? Not the same.
Not the same.
Pain is pain, yeah, but it's not the same. And so don't compare. It doesn't, losing your goldfish and losing your grandma is not the same.
Right.
Right. And that's what we do. We do that a lot because that's our way of trying to empathize. And I also think it's our way of, we haven't dealt with our grief because we don't do it very well. We've never been taught as grievers. So it's like, hey, somebody's grieving. Let me kick open the door and maybe we can have a conversation and get through my crap together. And it doesn't work like that.
Mm.
So I always say, like, just see the person where they're at and be like, this sucks.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know them, do you want to share a story about your person? May I ask your person's name? Those are important things. Or if I worked with a lady, I never got the opportunity to meet her husband. But when her husband passed, I said, I know how much you love John because when you shared stories with him about him at work, your face lit up and your eyes sparkled. It doesn't need to be a big, long, intense story, but it can be something just as simple as, I see that this person's important to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to know that I know you love them.
Mm.
Right? It can be really beautiful. It doesn't need to be convoluted and complicated. And, I remember when my grandma died and I had to do this funeral. It can be just about the person.
Is there a healthy way to show empathy through comparison?
I sometimes will say, losing a husband is difficult and I've walked the journey. I don't know. I would never say I understand what you're going through because I don't know what they're going through ever. And they don't know what I've gone through. So
Mhm.
I will say I've walked the journey. I've lost a parent. I know that it's difficult. Because I can tell you when it comes to death, it gets complicated and convoluted when you start dealing with estate and family and money and funeral arrangements and organ donation, all of those details. It gets messy really quick, and every situation is different. Every relationship, and even within our own families, right? Who you are, Scott, with that person compared to who somebody else is, the relationship is always different, and how they move through the grief is different. And so it can get really messy. And so it's like, you can't even say, oh, you're my brother and you're grieving just like I am. You're not.
No, my brother and I grieve very, very differently from my mom. It's
Exactly. And so, but the hard part is we think that because the relationship is the same, the grief should be the same. And we need to really release that expectation and that thought, because they're not. Right? It's that, as individuals, the fingerprint, and when nobody does it wrong. So we don't get to judge that they're doing it. They're crying too much. Why aren't they crying? What,
That's what it feels like in my house. Just when I think that I know their default patterns, it's like my husband's way of grieving is this. That's just like anything beyond neutral emotion. That's what he looks like. That's his protective measure.
Yeah.
Generally. I'm the one who defaults to crying because anger, in my experience, was dangerous. So don't do it.
Yeah.
I'm learning to work through that. And my daughter is freak out and bawl. But during certain situations, I've noticed that we change too. So just when I'm expecting my husband to do this and to be the one to command and get things done, during the last thing that we were grieving, I was the one doing that, making sure things were done. And once it was all over, that's when I bawled and I crashed. My husband was the one bawling. And I'm like, okay,
what's going on here?
This is not the pattern.
Yeah.
Does not compute. So, I mean, I know different types of grief would bring out different types of reactions.
Yeah. I can tell you, like, a man grieving a human compared to a man grieving a dog can be like, think of Old Yeller.
Our cat.
Watch Old Yeller with a bunch of men and women, and you will see different response. That's where men will cry, right?
Yes.
They get that bond with that fur baby, and it's funny, we don't really acknowledge those connections, you know. And when somebody posts on social media, I lost my dog today, and I'm like, those fur babies have an amazing ability to wrap themselves around our hearts, you know. And I have men in my life who are like, I don't like telling people, but I'm still crying 8 months later over my dog dying.
Mm.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, well, if it was your best friend, would you tell people that you were crying 8 months later because your best friend died? They're like, yeah. I'm like, your best friend died. He just has 4 legs. Right?
Like all three of us, when our last cat died, he was my therapy kitty. And all three of us saw him after he died running around the house. So we're like, we just made the joke that Ghost Cinnamon is in the dryer again. We swore we saw what he was wearing and how he was moving. It was craziness. And I love what Susan just said in the chat. And at times the emotion of laughing can come out when people I know grieve. That is a habit that runs in my family. When there's nervousness or grieving, there's a lot of
It can be weird, right?
Yeah.
And humor can be really a big part of, I mean, I think you both follow me on Facebook. I post a joke a day on Facebook, and they're usually pretty inappropriate.
They're the best.
Right? So that's kind of, it's something that I use. Like there's times where I'm like, something would break in the house and I'd have to fix it. Well, that was Mike's job. And I'm like, you know, you're a real dick for dying. Like, I love you, but I could use you right now. And some people are looking at me like, you're not supposed to talk about the dead like that. And I'm like, I'm talking about him the way I did when we were in person. Like,
exactly. And
right?
that is honoring him.
Yeah. Like, you know, and so, but some people that's disrespectful. And so some people I'm like, hey, whatever, I'm doing it my way. And I'm okay with that. But I think if we can let go of the judgment, if we can let go of the shaming people, the so-and-so would want you to do this. I mean, I had people, when I decided to sell my house, Mike would want you to keep the house. You don't even know him. You don't know what he would want. And we do these things because we want people to feel good. And it's like, we just have to let people feel. We just have to allow them to be. We don't need to guilt them. We don't need to shame them. We don't need them to just be better. And I can tell you, like, in my own head, I thought, okay, after the 1 year mark, I'm going to be okay. I wasn't okay. Year 2 was worse for me. And I always say to people, like, they're like, oh, it should be better now. Well, when you lose a significant person in your life, like a spouse or a child, or maybe a significant parent who maybe is still really active in your life, or a best friend, year 1 is like the major dental work when your mouth is all frozen. Year 2 is when that freezing comes out. That's when you start feeling the pain. That's when you start noticing the person isn't at this event, or isn't going to that, or isn't calling on your way home from work like they always do. That's when you really start to feel the voids. And so I say that grief doesn't have a timeline, so don't get to judge when they're supposed to be over it by now. You know, a good friend of mine, her husband died 12 years ago. And this year, her birthday, she turned older than he was when he died. So 12 years later, and she's a grief lady, and she had a rough time because it doesn't make sense that she's now older than her husband. I will love my husband to the last breath I take, which means I will grieve him to the last breath I take. And it may not bother me for months and months, and then I may have a rough day. And we don't get to choose. I don't get to schedule when it comes. So, you know, I know when some of my hard days are, and I can anticipate. But sometimes, you know, the other day I was at a Bonnie Raitt concert. She played a song about organ donation, and I bawled my eyes through it the other night, you know, and it's like, I wouldn't have bawled if I hadn't lost Mike. I had no idea. So I believe that we just have to be graceful. We just need to witness people where they're at. And we just get to hold space for them. That's all that's needed.
So what kind of hope do we have to help guide our loved ones through this process?
I think as long as you're able to embrace the fact that they're doing it the way they need to, that you can say, hey, how can I help you? What I'd like to be with you. Don't say, call me if you need me, because everybody does that. Grievers don't know what they need. Say, hey, I'm going to the grocery store. What can I get for you at the grocery store? Or I'm driving the kids to school. I'm going to pick your kids up along the way. Be specific. Honor the things you offer to give. And then say, like, hey, what else is it that you need? What can I do today? What can I, like, the snow's coming. Do you want help shoveling your snow? Oh, you love shoveling your snow? I don't love shoveling snow. Right? My neighbor was great. He was like, I lived in a condo complex. Something as simple as leaving the garbage on the doorstep so he would come by and take it to the big bin. Seems really minor. Big deal in my life. I didn't have to teach somebody where the bin was every time somebody stayed at the house. Right? Instead of bringing flowers over, he showed up with the Costco size box of really big Kleenex, good Kleenex from Costco. That's a useful gift.
Right.
I use that, right? Like, think outside the box. I utilize things like a friend set up mealtrain.com. So I didn't get 17 lasagnas on the same day. It's a website. You create a profile. You can send out a link. People sign up on the day. They put in what they're going to bring. Everybody else can see what's on the menu. So you're not going to get 16 casseroles on week one. A friend of mine, she just said, 6 months after my husband died, I threw away 17 shepherd's pie. They were all in her freezer. She's like, super great. Like, great that everybody wanted to step up and show up. But, she doesn't like shepherd's pie anymore.
It's so amazing to have you explain such a perspective on all this, because it's so massive and it's never talked about. And it's like, I remember one time, and I don't know if I should say this or not. You were talking about different things, Bonnie Raitt. Like, if you play Mike and the Mechanics in the living years, I'm a mess on the floor. And my dad's been dead for 36 years. And I'm just, even just thinking about it now, there's that hand in that pocket and that coal is still hot, right?
Yeah.
But I know my brother tried to give me my dad's old baseball jacket. And I couldn't. I said no to it. I can't look at that in my house. I couldn't. And so I said no to it. And then it became a great big family fight because I wasn't grieving the same way he was, and I couldn't have that in my house. But then I was wrong because I was grieving improperly, and I should have taken that jacket and put it up in my house and accepted it and now it's a big mess. It's a big family rift. It's a big mess because I did that wrong. Well, that's how I'm grieving. Like, how come that's not okay? Like you said, America's Got Talent. People celebrate differently and nobody cares. It's you do you. But all of a sudden with grieving, it's like, well, how dare you not accept my putting on how to grieve to you?
Yeah.
It's hard.
It is hard.
It's good to have somebody like you that's out there helping people have perspective on this.
And you have no idea how many times I have these conversations and people like yourselves, that it brings up tears and it brings up their memories, and people going, I remember being asked, how are you? And thinking it was a damn stupid question. Yeah. And now I know why I didn't feel right about it. And the reality is we all have emotions tied to these conversations. And there's nothing here that I've said that is brand new information to us.
No.
But it's never been explained from the side of a griever. And because we all do it separately, we all think, oh, well, I must be wrong or I must be off. And it's like, of course, you didn't need to have the coat there. But your brother thought he was doing something kind for you.
Yeah.
And, and so it's hard because we all just want to be witnessed. The world, when we lose somebody, spins at a different pace. Our person isn't on the world anymore, but the world keeps spinning, right? And so this world is spinning around and around and around. I think of Randy Brown with the basketball in his finger, right? Like the other Blue Talks guy. But then our world is off kilter a bit because our person isn't there, and then the people around us are not on their game too because they're grieving, and it just doesn't. Everything is out of sorts, and it's really hard to navigate. And that's why, I think that's why people don't say things and why people get quiet in grief is because they're afraid they're going to say the wrong thing.
Mhm.
right? And they're grieving too. I know I lost, like, there was 6 of us that all hung out before Mike died. And the other 4, the last time I've seen them was Mike's funeral. Never saw them again. And it's because they're also grieving Mike. And seeing me was a reminder that Mike was gone. But it meant I also lost my 4 best friends.
Right.
In that same process, right? Because we can't move through them together. And like in the world of Brene Brown, what's the story we're telling ourselves? And I spent months grieving harder over them than I did over Mike, because I was so hurt that they were here and I couldn't have them.
Mhm.
So it's those places that are so hard to navigate. And so that's why I spend time. I have the master classes that I run, and I chat about this on podcasts, because I want people to feel like they've got something to say, some way to support the people around them, so that grievers don't have to do it alone and people don't have to feel like they put their foot in their mouth. Because a lot of people do. I know I've done it.
Yep.
And I can tell you, when you do put your foot in the mouth, own it. When somebody looks at you and you know that interaction didn't go the way you thought it was going to land, own it. Say, dude, that did not come out the way I wanted it.
Yeah.
I want you to know you matter to me. And own it. Say, I'm sorry. You know, I and this was probably the spark of what started my Lean Into Grief movement. Was probably about 6 months after Mike died. I was volunteering somewhere, and the guy that I was volunteering beside, his brother had just died. And I said, when did you lose your brother? And he said, I didn't lose my brother, he died. And I was like, put my head in my turtle shell, like we all do when somebody would say something like that in that tone to you. And I was like, died is his word. Lose, passed away aren't his words.
Mm.
And I had to say, hey, I'm sorry, that didn't come out the right way. I wanted you to let you know, like losing a brother is significant. And I wanted you to know I'm keeping you in my thoughts. And he was like, oh. And, you know, when we can get back out of that shell and lean into grief. And I always say, like, those moments when you feel like running away in grief, those are the moments we are meant to lean in and support somebody. Those are the moments that we're supposed to step in and say, I don't have the words today, or I messed up and I'm sorry. And you're important to me. And this is tough to navigate. A griever can understand that better than silence.
Definitely.
Silence means you tell a story in your head and they're telling themselves a different story in their head.
I have loved this so much, Heidi. And one of the first things I'm thinking of is connecting you with Beth Ravelli, who talks about motherhood stories. There's a lot of grief in there that is stopping people from even having that conversation. So if you're open to that, I'd love to connect you too.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Oh, I gotta shake it off. Such a heavy topic, but needs to be talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody said to me, is it heavy for you to relive your story all the time? And I said, I'm actually teaching people something that they need and they want. I'm finding more and more people wanting this. They want to do it differently. They've just never been taught.
Mm-hmm.
Then it becomes an empowering thing to choose the story that we're writing for ourselves next, that next chapter. And why not do that through finding the joy and the honor within the grief experience that we've had. So Heidi, how do we contact you? How do we find you?
You can find me on Instagram and Facebook under Lean Into Grief. My website, HeidiDunstan.ca. Check out the events. I don't think I have a current one up, but actually I do. I'm running a brand new class called Living Legacy, where I'm going to walk people through what legacy could look like, because a lot of us think it's big, and really finding the legacies and the people that we've lost, and maybe even thinking about what legacy we want to leave behind. So kind of cool. And I'm not actually doing any work with people. I'm really just mastering my message right now, building an audience, and really just wanting to help people to grieve with grace, and so that we can do it together rather than individually.
Well, I would love to grieve with you.
And I thank both of you for sharing your tears with me. I know that in our world, sometimes tears are a sign of weakness, and I believe it's sacred space. So thank you. I think that we can honor them. So rather than telling somebody, please don't cry, you'll make me cry, I was grateful that you were both willing to go there with me.
I'm actually known as a speaker who cries on stage. I was like, do I really want to be known for that? But it's because of that vulnerability, and I'm not afraid to share that.
Yeah.
And since I don't do the default of anger and the default is sadness, still, that's what comes out first.
Yeah.
It was like all the grief of the old version of me, all the I can't remember where I heard this, but somebody said every tear is just you squeezing out the old version of you.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome. And so now every time I cry, I'm like, yep, gone. Gone.
I saw you doing that. I was like, that's a specific motion. But I believe that tears are just the language that we don't have the ability to say with our mouth. It's our hearts talking.
I like that too.
So thank you for sharing your hearts with us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Heidi. You know, Corey expresses his gratitude for Laura and I helping him run his Amplify Your Message, but I express my gratitude to him. It's a gift. Like everybody we get to talk to, I learn, I grow, I change, I improve. Like I've gained so much from this last 45 minutes. This is the biggest gift. So thank you so much.
I can't believe you guys have been doing this like for 3 hours. As I see the live timer going off, I'm like, you must feel like you've gone through the ringer.
I've been sleeping quite well.
Yeah, it is the best. I love it. I'm really enjoying it, but it's fascinating how exhausting it is. Like I have lunch and then I've got to work for 4 hours. I'm like, I'm gonna have to really suck it up because
yeah,
go have a nap.
go eat your Wheaties, Scott. You got
right?
it. Yeah. Thanks for doing what you do. It's important work.
Thank you. I did post your website. I made sure I spelled it correctly. I think HeidiDunstan.ca, not .com. So hopefully people reach out to you because what you do is so important.
Thank you. Have fun, everyone. I'm gonna hit up New York for a bit.
Okay.
Nice. Oh, I hope it feels New Yorkish, and you know.
I don't think you can not do New York without it feeling New Yorkish.
Well, for 2 years it wasn't New York. It was.
That's true.
So now I heard it's New York.
It's back. Yeah. The city that never sleeps.
Right. Oh, that's awesome. Enjoy. Say hi to Corey for us.
Thanks. Take care.
Okay. Take care.
Okay.
Wow. What a day.
I know. I would like to take this moment to just invite everybody watching and us to just have a couple deep breaths. Come back into the present moment. We've talked about a lot today. And to not stay in that place. So emotions are meant to have that wave. We're meant to hear whatever messages they have for us, and then we're meant to let them go. This is hoping that people don't stay in this space, but letting them go.
Energy and motion, emotion.
And if you want to shake it off, you can shake it off. If you want to make yourself laugh, you can make yourself laugh. I'm gonna put on my Mario hat.
Nice.
Because it was right here.
Excellent.
I'm gonna put it sideways.
I don't have a Mario hat, but I'll do this.
I know. We all want to feel good, just like Heidi was saying.
We do. I'm just gonna go.
Hey, I'm the Frog, and I just wanted to say it's been an absolute pleasure being here on Blue Talks. Amplify Your Message, and thank you, Laura. You are an amazing host. Bye.
Oh my god, that was cute, and it reminds me of the video that was stuck in my head earlier. I can only count to 4.
Yes, I'm gonna look that up.
Let the bodies hit the floor by Drowning Pool.
Nice. I know. I gotta look that up. Muppets. I can only count.
I'll just send it to you. I'll send it to you.
Perfect. Awesome. Loving this, Laura. Cannot wait to fill another 3 hours of awesome tomorrow for the last day of Blue Talks. Amplify Your Message. I know. It's kind of sad, right?
I miss you. I only get to see you like every couple months.
I know. It's good. It's good. But at least we have that. Big shout out to Corey Poirier for being the man he is, who puts so many great, amazing people together and puts all this stuff into the world. It's really a gift to be coached by Corey and to learn from Corey and to be associated with his group. So love all the people that we've had on today, and people have been popping in and out, and I hope that they'll watch the recordings later and catch up what they missed. But I'm looking forward to tomorrow's show.
So we don't have a picture of Corey in the book?
Isn't he? He's got to be somewhere in there.
Nope. That's what I thought. I was like, oh, for those who don't know Corey and haven't met him yet.
Oh, he's a good-looking bald fella.
Oh, wait, you know what? Okay. I have a really old Corey Poirier book that holds up my laptop.
Yeah, he's right. There's no picture.
This
of
is
Corey.
like old
but he has
version of
hair and
Corey.
a soul patch. Corey doesn't look like that anymore.
Not anymore, but it's still
Not at all.
funny. He loves to share this photo of him too.
Yes, of him skydiving. Awesome. Well, I got to go feed myself because I got to get back to work this afternoon. I've got a busy schedule, so I have really loved and enjoyed this day, and I'm going to
Thank you.
to click the button to end the broadcast. Have an
Bye,
amazing day,
everyone.
everyone.
I will see you